All right. Welcome to MazzaMedia, guys. Good afternoon. We're live. It's a little bit cold out there right now, snowing. Maybe some more snow coming in on Monday here. So it's going to be, this is kind of really like the part of winter now where we really have to just grind this thing out en route to spring. February is always like that, trial by fire month, or trial by snow month, really. Where you're going to get through the month, and before you know it, the Red Sox or your local baseball teams will be back. We'll be back to outdoor activities soon, and on our way. And I'm looking forward to spring, but I've kind of enjoyed winter a little bit this year, just because there's been some mild winters, and I don't really mind the snow as much this year, just as long as it's not like constant blizzards. We've had like one massive snowstorm right now, and another one's en route. But it is February 21st, 2026. We are 7 days away from, or 8 days away from March, ladies and gentlemen, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a good year. 2026, I always say, the year always starts on cold terms. Obviously, it's always frigid. And then summertime is always an awesome time. So I'm looking forward to it. You guys had the AC on yesterday, Becky? That's hilariously awesome. Probably because the temperatures dropped outside, and then everyone's heat's been cranked up the past couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden it warms up like 10 to 20 degrees, and it's like, okay, we need it to be a little bit cooler in the house than normal. So yeah. Welcome to the show. It's going to be basically what I call a chill zone. This is where I just basically play it by ear. I have a couple ideas of what I want to talk about today, but it's going to be pretty much random throughout the entire show. A lot of video clips are planned for today, and it's going to be a variety. It's going to be a couple different things. We're going to talk about Inside Edition. They talked about JLR, John DePetro, and a few other content creators that have been streaming their YouTube shows outside of Nancy Guthrie's house. Our mother's house, Nancy Guthrie's house. Yes, I'm sorry. Which is a story that's still going on right now, which is one of the a story just gets wilder every day it goes on. So we're going to talk about that today a little bit. We're going to talk about Karen Reed news from this week. Karen Reed was back in Dedham, and that was absolutely just surreal to see her back in Dedham again. And then we're going to talk about some Kelsey Fitz Simmons news as well. We're going to talk about the new judge in that case. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. on Common Sense Investigator, Lauren, who's been on my show numerous times for fundraisers, will be hosting a fundraiser for Kelsey Fitz Simmons. This fundraiser will feature myself, Nurse Kim Broken Baker, and former officer Claudia King. There'll be 5 of us tomorrow raising funds. We're looking forward to that show. My next Kelsey Fitz Simmons fundraiser will be next week. I typically go bi-weekly, so every other weekend. And we're looking at probably Sunday at 2 or 4, somewhere around there. I'll get the exact time figured out, but we're looking at March 1st. We'll kick off March with the March to Trial, because Kelsey Fitz Simmons' trial is slated for later in that month, and it's going to be an interesting one to say the least. But hey, I'm happy to be live today. I'm looking forward to being here. If you haven't subscribed to this channel before, please do. That would be fantastic. And then other than that, let's have a great show today. Let's talk about some things, play some video, and have a heck of a day here. So, all right, here we go. So we're going to talk about Inside Edition. So before we get to that, we're going to talk about Nancy Guthrie. Everybody knows about this case. I mean, anybody that's followed any criminal case in the world has heard about the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping, which has honestly a plethora of endless leads. There is no, in any way, shape, or form, what appears to be an outcome to this case. I have not followed this case in the last probably 48 hours, 72 hours. I've just been watching the Olympics. Other stuff's been coming up. And honestly, I think the sad part about this story is, people, it takes time for a story to pick up. Like, there's breaking news, and then stories typically start to catch fire around the 3rd through 10th day. And then after a while, there's that ceiling where people that are watching every single day start to say to themselves, well, is there going to be a development here? And it gets to the point where, interest starts to wane. And we saw that actually happen during one brief moment in the Boston Marathon bombing, where every major news outlet was in Boston, throughout that week. And all of a sudden, it was the Thursday, I think it was Thursday, they had all left. Like, most of them left. Like, CNN was here, they left. And the next thing you know, on that Friday night, that Thursday night, right, it was a Thursday night this happened. There was a shooting at MIT. The next day, Boston's locked down, Watertown and all this stuff is going down, everything, all that shootings happen, all that, and it just ends up on a Friday night ending once and for all. Then the media comes back again, as the media is only going to stick around primarily as long as possible, where there's a story that's going to be essentially going to get those, get that interest. And then, they'll wait, they'll leave and say, well, we'll leave. If we have to come back, we will. With this Nancy Guthrie thing, I mean, honestly, I don't even know what the hell to tell anybody anymore. I'm a person that has a lot of theories, and by that, I don't like to have one central theory. I like to have maybe a primary theory and some fallback theories. I just don't know what the hell to think anymore. There was a moment where they thought Savannah Guthrie's sister, I think her name's Annie, had her ex-husband or whatever had kidnapped her potentially. That fell by the wayside. People said Mexican drug cartels have kidnapped her. I'm hearing like everything known to man in terms of theories. Was it just a common quirk? I don't know. I honestly doubt that. I honestly think the kidnapping was premeditated. I think that person went to that house with intent. But, another theory I have, and I've said this a few times, what if the ransom notes are not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with the actual people that kidnapped her? I mean, and that's another theory I try to remind people, because I remember when this story first happened, I'm like, you never know if there's people that are being opportunistic. Like, I think a guy had gotten arrested one day over this. I mean, you never know if people are just trying to hone in on a crisis and try to get money out of it. Let's say, let's hold a ransom. Let's send notes to TMZ. And because people have made good points too. They're like, well, why would they hold this woman for so long? And weeks ago, Savannah Guthrie was on camera saying, we're willing to work on the ransom with you. And then it just, again, falls by the wayside. Nothing ever really comes of it. And that's that. And, my attitude is this, is, another theory, because I always have more than one theory. Is it just possible that this ransom note is coming from an opportunistic person? Is there someone just mailing letters at random? I don't know. I mean, I do not know. But, the crazy thing is that, every theory that somehow has a level of realism to it or probability to it is ultimately in play. Because when the Boston Marathon attack happened, I remember thinking, oh, these guys probably hopped on a plane. They probably fled the country. And then that Thursday night is the shooting at MIT. And everybody's like, why would anybody shoot anybody at MIT when there's so much stuff going on in the city already? And I remember so many people online, Barstool Sports included, that just absolutely were thinking, like, why is there a shooting at MIT? Why are these people shooting each other over there? And then you find out this may be affiliated with the Boston Marathon bombers. And I'm thinking, like, they probably fled the country, though. There's no way they're in Massachusetts. There's no way they're near Boston, right? They're gone. No, they were right over there. And the next thing you know, there's a police chase all over the place that leads into Watertown, leads into a firefight in that small town. And it was something that we just didn't expect. So that's what can happen in something like this, is that we can have multiple theories, but there's always something that could happen that we've just never thought of. You know what I mean? It's like so many times in my life, I've had theories and thoughts, and sometimes I'm right. Sometimes I'm partially right. Sometimes I'm mostly right. Sometimes, I'm entirely right. It depends. But with this one, this is just, the sheriff's department, the issues with the feds that they had early on, it's just been an ongoing matter, and it's become hopeless. I hate to admit it, but I'll be honest. I'm going to say, be brutally honest here. I truly believe Nancy Guthrie is dead. I hate to be so forthcoming like this, but I just don't believe this woman's still alive. And the number one reason why I say this is because this woman is on medications. This woman is in her 80s, and well, actually, maybe I can't fully say that just yet, because I don't know if they actually took her medications with her or not. But if they didn't take her medications with her, then this, I've said it for weeks, this woman could be dead and buried in a desert somewhere for all we know. And I'm not trying to be horrible here with these comments, but I'm trying to really be honest with reality that, could this person have murdered her, or could she have dropped dead at some point because she's not getting her medications? And then they just, in the most horrible sense of the word, ditched her body somewhere, or buried her body. These are the things that I feel like are absolutely real, because I can't imagine this woman not being on her medications for day after day after day. Anybody that has had elderly people in their family, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your grandparents, maybe you're of that age range. There's certain medications that you are on that you need to take, and if you don't take those medications, you look at Michael J. Fox, for example, younger guy, has had the problems he's had. I remember one time he was at a hearing and he did not take his medication on purpose to show the results of how his disease affects him. And immediately he was shaking, he was shivering, his body was jolting all over the place. It was a horrific thing to see. And this was the result of him not being medicated. I'll never forget that video when Michael J. Fox presented the harsh reality of what it is that he goes through. And again, getting back to Nancy Guthrie, if she's not on her medication, you think about how long this has been now. That's not a good look. in terms of good outlook, in terms of her well-being. And that's the sad part. But, I do feel like in life, whether you lose a family member, or even if it's an animal, more often in life, people will lose their pets than family members will go missing or be kidnapped. And this is stuff that's very troublesome. It's terrible. I go for walks during the summer, missing animal posters here and there all the time. Animals go missing, more often than humans get kidnapped, obviously. And usually children that get abducted more often than not. But it's tough when you love someone, someone, and they don't exit on the terms that would be before you, meaning, you would like them, if they do pass away one day, it's tragic, but at the same time, when they pass away before you, you're there to just witness their last days, bury them, through a funeral process. At least at the end of the day, you could say, well, they lived their life. We get to be with them right till the end. And now it's tragically ended, but, it was going to end one day, unfortunately, but, at least it ended on natural terms, which is they just eventually passed on. At least, I'd rather have like my cat that passed away a few years ago. It was my cat for 20 years. He passed away one day, and it was like, it sucked, but it was like, well, at least he didn't get caught up outside somewhere, get run over by a car 10 years earlier, or get mauled by a fox or something, 10 years earlier. At least he died on terms that were what you'd expect in life. People and animals, they get old, they pass away. But with this, it's having someone taken away from you. It's having someone that's been your mother. I'm sure she's a grandmother, taken away from you, and you don't know where she is. And if she has passed away at this point, and it has been a matter of time since she's passed, if she passed away, say, a week ago or whatever, it's tough to see that your family member has been taken from you. But there's a lot of suspicion online. I mean, I see the posts, you see it every day. There's people that think that Savannah might be behind this. The family might be behind this. I just don't. I'm always the kind of person that thinks every theory could be in play. But I would find it hard to believe that Savannah Guthrie, who is an extremely high-profile person in our news media, would ever have any benefit. But like, a lot of times people will do something for insurance scams, other things like this. But why would, why, like when you look at O.J. Simpson, for example, and Nicole Brown, I firmly believe O.J. Simpson did it, and I'll never change my mind on that. Sometimes a lot of celebrity murders happen, or incidents like this happen, when a celebrity's career is past its decadence. Like O.J. was long since retired. Things were changing in his life. Going from a massive celebrity to a lower level celebrity over time can be difficult for some, and disagreements, disputes can happen, and it can result in horrible outcomes like we saw with Nicole Brown. Thank you, Dennis Ballin, 7187. Thank you, sir, for that super chat. No message, but thank you, sir. But yeah, that's what I get. I look at Savannah Guthrie. I'm like, I cannot possibly believe that she would take, she would kill. I wouldn't believe Savannah Guthrie would kill anybody. I wouldn't believe that Savannah Guthrie would hire somebody to kill somebody, even if it wasn't her own mother, even if it was her own enemy. Now, I just don't see a level of volatileness out of that, woman, Savannah. I just don't see it at all. I just don't see, there's people that love her. There's people that hate her, politics exists, right? All that, but I just couldn't see, like, I don't expect to be sitting here in time and saying, oh yeah, well, I can't believe Savannah Guthrie orchestrated this whole thing. I mean, that's something that would happen in a movie. You know, like they always say in the movies, it's always the person you least expect it. But I always say in reality, more often than not, it's the person that you most expect it. The reason why it's the person you least expect it in books and movies is to throw the reader off. So what they're reading is not predictable. It's an entertainment tactic. So that's why when you watch a movie like Clue, or any other movie like Urban Legend or whatever, where there's the Scream movies, you know, it's always like the person you least expected. And maybe not always. Maybe it's the person you thought all along. But in real life, you know, it's usually probably like with Nicole Brown. Like if you said, I think it's O.J. Simpson, and it turns out to be O.J. Simpson. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, that's more probable than not. With this, you know, I think that this is on my honest thought on this is I do think it's someone that the family does not know. I do think it's someone that's not affiliated with the family. I do think that it is somebody out there that either hates the family. I would say because of the ransom being involved, I would say this is not a personal attack. I would say essentially this is what you'd call a typical ransom in order to get rich, get money. I'd say it's exactly what this is. Because, I mean, it's very simple. She lives in a house. It's a very nice house, probably mostly paid for by her daughter. And that's really what it boils down to, in my opinion. I think that this is what it is. I think it's, you know, there's some that think it could be Mexican cartels. I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, it could happen. I know that they're not too far from the border, but at the same time, you know, I just think that this could be a typical someone trying to pull an amateur trying to pull something off here. And what I personally think's happened, and this was a thought I had, was, and I got criticized by a person on Twitter for this comment. I felt that every time Savannah Guthrie and her siblings would go on camera, I felt that that was being orchestrated by the authorities behind the scenes, the feds, most importantly, that were basically just saying, you know, this is your next move. You need to go on camera. You need to say this, like we've heard your ransom. We're willing to pay it. That would be, in my opinion, a tactic to try to flush out the kidnapper. So what you do is you basically, so people might say like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're paying the ransom, but that's not necessary. It's like if you guys have ever seen the movie Speed, Dennis Hopper was the villain in that movie. He wanted to get paid, and they decided to drop off the money for him at a particular location. At the same time, they had set up a perimeter of officers that were ready to pounce on him as soon as he collected that ransom. But what they didn't expect was that he had a hole underneath the mailbox and then went underground to the subway because he was a former cop. He knew their strategies, all that stuff. So typically, from an authority standpoint, the best thing to do is literally just tell the Guthrie family, yes, go on camera, tell them you're going to pay the ransom, and then put that money out there. And basically what it becomes now is it's like baiting the kidnapper. You play ball with them. And that's why any kidnapper that is trying to get ransom, it's usually never going to pay off, because usually once that meeting, the exchange, the money in exchange for the person that's being kidnapped happens, that's usually when the authorities are eyes on. You know, it's like when he goes to the house. If he goes in the house, breaks in the house, grabs her, takes her out of the home, there's nobody there to react and respond to it because nobody was anticipating it, right? When it comes to the ransom exchange and what we typically call a kidnapper exchange, that's when eyes are on. That's when there's awareness. That's when this exchange becomes unrealistic for the kidnapper to get his money and get away scot-free. Now, we know about the whole Bitcoin thing in this particular situation. There had been money dropped on that Bitcoin wallet or whatnot, and it was digital. It was a digital way, and they had known that there had been some activity there. So, you know, that's where I say to myself, like, what's the ultimate plan? Pay it, you know, digitally through the Bitcoin, and then does he just drop her off? Does he just give them coordinates? Like this is the movie Seven, you know, okay, she's at this location, you know, I mean, what's the plan, you know? And with the wallet, I mean, this is all digitally traceable. And I don't know. I mean, does this person have a wallet that's based out of a foreign country, that would have no extradition? Primarily, I don't know. But there's so many factors here, and it's pretty creepy. I mean, it's a pretty creepy story. It really is. It's been one that has shocked this nation for a long, long time. In the past couple of weeks, I should say. So maybe not a long, long time. In the short term, perhaps. But it's a creepy story. And it's one that I've lost a lot of faith and a lot of hope in. Number one, I'll be shocked that she's still alive. I said that earlier. I'll be shocked that she's still alive. Number two, once this thing started to hit the 10-day mark, usually it's like this progression, right? And we saw a lot of progression in the investigation. It's like, oh, here we go. They're going down south in the state, trying to see if she's there. They're going in a house tonight and they're detaining people. It starts to pick up, but every single time it just kind of falls afterwards. They conduct what they need to do. Then it falls short. Maybe it ends with no end result, unfortunately. So that's always a hard thing. That's always a hard thing to see. But that's the difficulty in this, is that there's a lot of endings to certain moments in this that are ending up empty-handed. There's no findings. There's no additional leads. There's really no way. And the authorities are going to have to vet every person that's a suspect, and they should. They should vet every single suspect. They should, inquire. They should detain some people for a while and say, hey, look, we don't necessarily think you're the suspect, but there's things we need to look into here, and so forth and so on. And that's what they've done. I think that the sheriff's office, however, has not inspired much confidence in people like myself and many others. There was a poll I had on my Twitter page of what's your confidence level, and I don't remember the poll results now, but all I can remember, to the point, but I do know it was significantly low confidence from a lot of people, just not seeing a lot of things going on that would be of concern. Genie in a bottle. That's a crafty name right there, Genie in a bottle. Sheriff needs to release control to the FBI. Yeah, I mean, look, we said this about the Karen Reed case time after time after time, that we want to see the feds do something. We honestly, I'm one of the people of the belief that the Karen Reed case will only end when there is a federal intervention, because of what you saw at the local level in terms of the investigation, not in any way being sufficient whatsoever. And I think that the sheriff's department, honestly though, in terms of jurisdiction, the sheriff's department does reserve the right to oversee the whole thing. The only problem I have with them and the sheriff is I have a lot of problems, but I feel like they should have cooperated more with the feds earlier and just given the feds full reign. This is not Rambo First Blood, where the local police department doesn't want to cooperate with the National Guard in the takedown and location finding and takedown of John Rambo, where Brian Dennehy has a big head about it. This is my town, and is that happening with the sheriff's department here as well? And if this is something that involves, say, a Mexican cartel, for example, which has been one of the rumors going around, do you not want the feds involved if they might have information there? I don't know. But there's a lot of theories. There's a lot of things that could have happened, and it goes on and on and on. Now, this week, Inside Edition released a segment about content creators, people like myself, people that will go to, I don't usually do it, all that often, but I'm a content creator, right? People that will take their phones and go to a location. You saw this plentifully during the Karen Reed trial. You're seeing it during the Kelsey Fitz Simmons hearings. People will go out that have YouTube channels, that have Twitter pages. They'll grab their phones, they'll record, and you see a lot of that all the time. Justice served. Other people, they'll have their cameras. Kelsey comes out of court. They'll record. They'll post it to their channel. They'll play it. They'll use it. It's independent media is what it is. And I agree. with independent media. I agree that we all should have the right to, we all don't have to work for NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, News Nation, for example, to go out there, whether you're credentialed or non-credentialed. I'm non-credentialed, and film something. I've done it many times over the years where there's been like an accident somewhere. Most of those videos I don't have up anymore, but I would just film something local, put it on my YouTube channel, and say, hey, this happened. Here's video. It's kind of this day and age how things work. You saw again with Karen Reed. Tom CPU would be someone every day, live streaming all day, getting the content out there. And we saw, a lot about what happened outside of the court with, through Tom CPU's live streams, through other people that were filming videos and posting them on the internet. So in terms of that, I do disagree with Inside Edition for coming down on those guys, whether or not we love them or hate them, because I'll talk about the other part in a moment. But I do agree that, anybody, including your aunt and uncle, brother and sister, should be able to take their phone, record, post it to their YouTube channel, use their own content. They have the right to go someplace. They have the right to talk about it. They have the right to cover it, and that's through any means. Just as I have the right to come on this channel right now, talk about Nancy Guthrie, Karen Reed, Kelsey Fitz Simmons, and use my channel in a means that I wish to use it in, to use my cell phone to record what I wish to do. But that's it. I have to say that, this is something that they should be able to do. And someone said to me online, like, Mazza, you're kind of making fun of the two of those guys for getting, basically berated by Inside Edition. Yes, I did find it funny that they got roasted by Inside Edition. I absolutely found it hilarious. But I'm not looking at it from the terms of a YouTube content creator. I'm looking at it from the terms of they noticed John DePetro and they're making fun of John DePetro. They saw JLR and they're kind of roasting these guys. That's kind of the perspective I looked at it from. Was like, oh man, they would end up on Inside Edition, wouldn't they? It's just funny because when you look back at John DePetro a year ago, you look back at JLR. These guys were all over Karen Reed people. These guys were, asking, JLR pursued Karen in the court one day. Karen's a killer. Karen's a killer. Karen's a killer. That's all he would do. It was like, dude, you need to cool it down, dude. You need to cool down, bro. Okay. And I'll never forget that guy for that. That was my first impression because I didn't know who this guy was. And he's been a very big content creator, very big channel, very big following online, lots of followers on X, no question. Been very successful, no question about it. But for anybody that was free Karen Reed, it was like, okay, who is this guy? Okay, who is this guy, and why? Why is he? One second here. One second, ladies and gentlemen. I just have to do one thing. One second, folks. Stand by. Did it wrong. That should work. Okay, perfect. All right, that should work. One second here, folks. Stand by, stand by, stand by. There we go. All right, perfect. Okay. Yeah, so that, like I said, DePetro, he was, him and Aiden's back and forth. I'm sorry. Funniest stuff I've ever seen in my life. It's just funny. It's just hilarious. I'm personally just entertained by people getting in confrontations that are just not like like non-hostile confrontations where people like Grant Smith Ellis and the way he gets into it with people. I just find that absolutely hilarious. It's funny. It really is. But again, Inside Edition is bringing this up, and you see these guys. I mean, these guys are all over the story. I mean, like I said, it's their right. It's their right to do this. But I just find it funny that Inside Edition picked that up though, and they had a whole thing on them. Here is John DePetro on video here. Hold on a second. There, which one is it here? Which one? No, not that one. Here it is. Okay, this one here.
You don't have the right guy. Then
this guy, he can't even go to Arizona. He can't even go to Arizona without somebody insulting him. It's just funny. This guy has such a reputation online now that people see him and they just immediately are like, yeah, that's John the blah blah.
No, that's not
right here.
That's not the guy.
Nice car, by the way, too.
You don't have the right guy. Then
but I just think that overall, I mean, these guys, again, end of the day, constructively, they have the right to be here and cover if they want. And I think that I do think it was kind of like I would say this: if I had been down there with my phone and had been doing exactly what they're doing, which is covering it, live streaming it, and I ended up on Inside Edition, I would be absolutely furious. There'd be no question that I would be upset if they said, and then there's this other content creator, MazzaMedia, who spends 12 hours a day recording live with his phone, and the neighbors don't like him and they hate him and all that stuff. It's just funny stuff to me, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's happened, in a sense. To just say it, these people, don't have a right to be there. So as a content creator, I do understand, that this is something they're all do. But again, the other side of it's just that, I don't see what, other than self-serving their channels, they're just going to give an alternative coverage. That's about it. But it's just funny because DePetro's setup is pretty funny here. He has the umbrella. He has this whole grip thing he uses, and then he has his phone hooked up, which is actually, I got to give the guy a little bit of credit. The umbrella is probably not a bad idea considering you're in Arizona and it's hot out there. But then again, he's wearing a jacket, so it's kind of cool. But that sun can hit hard. But like I said, it was kind of shocking to see Inside Edition pick up on this story and be like, yeah, these guys are outside. They're doing this channel. One sec, folks. Thank you. All right, sorry for that. Okay, so that was that. And again, they're all over. Now, I know there was one guy. So 4 guys were talked about here. I don't know who the other 2 guys are. I haven't looked into it. But one of the guys I know was furious about it. And I would be too. I mean, I absolutely would be too. I think what the thing is from our perspective is that these guys have such a bad reputation with us, those of us that supported Karen Reed, that we just don't in any way, shape, or form, look at these guys and take them seriously. And for me, it's just kind of funny because, is Inside Edition, are they just being, in a sense, petty about it? Meaning, are they just doing this because they're like, these guys are an absolute nuisance and we're serious? But then on the flip side, Inside Edition, I mean, they'll look for anything, right? They'll cover just about anything. So there's a lot of different ways to look at all the coverage on this and everything that's been going down. But I mean, honestly, from a content creation standpoint, I mean, one of the best ways you can do content creation is literally be on scene. You can build a large audience by traveling to locations, getting stuff on camera, recording it, posting it to your YouTube channel. It's a way to really build an audience. You know, you can definitely do that. But in terms of this, it's like these guys actually hopped on planes. They're camping out there. They're basically probably sitting in lawn chairs all day. They took a plane. They rented a car, you know, to get out there, which is what I mean. In fairness, mainstream media, they're doing the same thing though. I mean, mainstream media, they're camped out there too. They're flying people out there too. They're sending their people out just the same. There's no difference. You know, there's no question about it. So it's like, that's why I say, like, from a YouTube content creation standpoint, they have my support in that sense. But I don't support these guys individually. I don't support these guys as people that were known anti-Karen readers. You know, like, they're never going to have my respect. It's almost like if you play a sports game against a team you hate, and, you know, you respect them as a fellow athlete, but you're not a big fan. So joining us here, who's making a surprise guest appearance on MazzaMedia, is the man known as the Glare. What's going on, Will?
What's up, dude?
Another day. I like the Bruce Lee shirt, brother.
Oh, thanks, man. Whoa.
Yeah, Into the Dragon. That's a good one.
Yeah,
man.
Dragon.
Way of the Dragon's completely underrated with Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris fight at the end. Yeah, man. Yeah, good brother. Stuff. Good stuff. Right. Yeah, can't go wrong with a Bruce Lee flick.
No,
ever.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, man. He was one of the best ever. And Chuck Norris, Van Damme, you know, Seagal.
There will never be another person like Bruce Lee, like another human being like Bruce Lee, like with the kind of self-discipline he had. There was nothing. Yeah, in the sense that, like, even if he really didn't do all the movies that he made, like, if you just listen to the guy talk and philosophize, you're like, wow, this guy is nailing it.
Right. Absolutely.
We'll end up talking about that all night. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I might be frozen right now. I apologize. Well, my screen just froze. But hey, man, you wanted to talk about, you were mentioning in the comments you wanted to talk about this story that's been going on. You had said yesterday this is one thing we didn't have a chance to talk about. But this was, I mean, it was hilarious, wasn't it? You see John DePetro on camera.
It's hilarious. Because these guys are, it's so funny that this one case, this is the case that would bring these vultures together. And make no mistake, that's exactly what they are. Yeah. I've been covering, now it's ironic that DePietro would find his way to cross paths with these other two guys.
Yeah.
But I've talked about JLR for years. I've talked about Dolly Vision for years. JLR, like, JLR is just a bad dude.
Yeah.
Now the thing is like, he's chilled out over the years for the most part. At least I thought he did, until he showed up, like, trying to get clout by getting in Turtleboy's face, and yelling at Karen, you know. But he you know, in my community post, I reposted this video that was made about him that's like an hour long. I highly recommend educating yourself on this guy's nature. But he you know, for the most part, as of late, like, once his channel started, like, building and getting to the point to where he wanted it to be, he seems to have just chilled out and just relied on just going out to places and covering it, and that's it. But if you really pay attention to JLR, he gives no actual accurate insight of any kind. Like, when he's streaming at home, he doesn't actually screen share. He doesn't even know how to use StreamYard. It's wild. Like, he doesn't know how to use anything. He'll just take his phone and be like, look, you know, and show his phone to the camera. That's what he constantly does. But Dolly Vision is an opportunist to the core. An absolute, like, if you just follow, like, if you look at his pattern of behavior as far as this goes, like, he's like, oh my God, the whole world's talking about this. This is an opportunity to get in my car, drive out there, be there, and then my supporters will be like, look at Dolly, he's a worker. You know what I mean? But that's the thing, is Dolly Vision is also like, his grift game is one of the strongest I've ever seen. He just knows how to do it. But make no mistake, he's a liar and he's an opportunist and he sucks. He's terrible. But like, you know how Aiden does what do you call it? The Ratchet Madness, right?
Oh, right. Yep.
Dolly Vision does his own version of that. Ironically, he calls it Turtle Island. Now, this is coincidence. I don't think he stole it from Aiden. He didn't. But he has a whole grift game where he goes and calls it Turtle Island, and it's just all the drama creators and whatever, and you vote people off the island, right?
That's funny.
And it has made him tons, right? So like what he does here, like if you notice, go watch his videos. He goes because he knows that success is something that attracts more people, right? People like to envy. So he rents a Corvette or borrows someone's Corvette to make a video and be like, I'm going out there, Nancy Guthrie, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, it's all hyperbole to the core. Like, it's all of it. That's all it is. Like, I have done so many, like, petty streams back in the day on this guy where I'm just covering where he is going out to find a missing person. And he's like, I got my snake boots. I got snake boots and putting on my snake boots. All my gear ready. And he's got like a big old mosquito net over this big brimmed hat and everything like that. And it's always like you laugh at him. It's wild, you know, but I used to talk about him because when I would cover missing persons cases, I would actually say the things. That's why I'm laughing at Inside Edition now, because I would actually say the things that they were talking about, how these guys are just muddying the waters, making it more difficult. And there is some truth to that. But when it comes to Inside Edition, I agree with you 100%. I think that this is not coming from a place of we want the best possible outcome for Nancy Guthrie and we need to make sure that she's found safe and blah, blah, blah. And these guys are just muddying the waters. No, they're jealous. They're threatened by independent media. Nobody relies on mainstream media anymore, and they're scared. And so now they're weaponizing this, because you don't see them bringing up other YouTubers and going, hey, like, you know, can you tell us more about this person? Can you tell us more about that person? Because that would credit other YouTubers, wouldn't it?
Right.
The YouTubers that they would platform, right? So they're just afraid of YouTubers is what it is.
That's what's crazy too, because during the Karen Reed case, you know, like my channel, you know, was a channel that was mostly about sports. It was not a well-established channel on the internet at all. And then once I said, oh, I'm interested in this case, I want to talk about it, it was all of a sudden, you know, the channel just kind of got a lot of subscribers, things like that. And then the next thing I know, I'm like, I'm doing what I've always wanted to do with my channel. I've always wanted to talk about, you know, news or have like a media, you know, media-based, you know, that's why it's MazzaMedia. That was always the idea. You know, I just never had a lot of time to ever put my all into it to really bring it up to what I always envisioned. But you know, this was kind of in line with what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to go to places, you know, cover things as they happened to some degree, and then also do a talk show, you know, which I always did for years about sports, movies, other forms of entertainment. Remember I did COVID when that was a big story on my channel, you know, this was like, you know, this was a situation that was like, you know, I didn't think I'd ever have any level of following, but what's happened with the internet in recent years is that YouTube channels are putting people in the forefront, because we're at a time now where cable television is all but dead, where there's a lot of distrust in national media. You know, and it goes both ways, whether it's a channel that's a right leaning or a left leaning or whatever. There's been a lot of people that are more craving independent media now that want to follow, you know, someone, you know, like I thought Tommy's CPU during the Karen Reed trial gave an award-winning effort, in my opinion.
For sure.
I mean, he gave some of the best content just by being out there day in and day out. You saw everything organically. You know, if a cop told him, hey, get out of here, you're not allowed to be in the buffer zone, that was captured on camera. And people saw that at home and said, oh my God, look at the reality of what's going on outside this court. But when you watch the news at night, you don't really, or even during the day at noon or whatever, you never saw the organic story. They would tell you about what happened, but you wouldn't really see the inside and outside coverage the way you could by watching, say, Tom CPU's daily live streams.
I completely agree. And I've always maintained that as well, is what Tom CPU did out there during those trials was extremely important, because there was this mainstream media narrative that Karen Reed supporters were rabid and were causing, I mean, that's literally the word they used, was rabid. You know, and nobody was rabid. Everybody was just, it was just a pleasant thing that brought people. I mean, it was an unfortunate thing that brought people together, but in a pleasant way.
Right.
And people saw it as, hey, you believe in something as strongly as I do, and so you're welcome here as much as, you know, so, and it was that vibe on a constant basis. And so Tom's coverage of what was going on outside that courthouse is extremely important, because when the day comes that they decide to tell this story in full in a documentary series or whatever, that footage is going to be the footage that proves that any narrative that mainstream media would put out there about the supporters of Karen Reed or Turtleboy are just false. If they try to say anything negative anyway.
Right. There was, you know, Penny Commit from WBZ local news here. It's the CBS affiliate, WBZ. Great network. I do like their coverage. They're one of my favorite networks locally. They were kind of, in my opinion, during the last days of the original Karen Reed trial, they were reporting that Karen Reed, what happened, Karen Reed started walking instead of the front of the courthouse. There was a lot, what happened was there was a lot of people that were gravitating during the jury deliberation. So what happened was the police officers were trying to maintain a level of security for Karen. So there was a big discussion. I was actually in the church with many other people. Karen, her defense team, you know, Microdots was in there, a whole bunch of other people, and her family, friends, all that stuff were in there. And the police came in, and state police, and they were saying that, you know, we're concerned about the security, because what was happening was that so many people, and this is the first trial. This is the first time, you know, we've ever seen you know, there was always decent size or large side crowds out there, but when I went to jury deliberation the first time, it just multiplied by 4 or 5. I mean, you could barely find parking in the back of the registry of deeds. And they're in the church like, hey, we're concerned about the security here, because when I was talking, I can't remember who it was, but I think she was Karen Reed's cousin. But I said to her, I said, look, one of the things that's concerning me right now, and I didn't think this would actually ever happen, and it never did, thankfully. But I was concerned, like, you know, what if there's anti-Karen Reed supporters out there that are disguising themselves as Karen Reed supporters and decide at some point to, you know, harm Karen in any way. And so that's when they started to do like the police escorts in. But as that jury deliberation went on, they started to escort her out of that church, across the back end of the grass, and then around the back side of the courthouse, in through looped around, then came in the front door that way. So Penny Commit from WBZ starts reporting. She's like, Karen Reed continues to avoid her supporters. We don't know why she's doing this, but she's avoiding her supporters. And
I remember that.
Yeah. And I got really, really angry about that, because either she didn't know, or, you know, as local journalists, you expect them to try to get intel on that and see, you know, and honestly, it's also kind of straightforward. Wouldn't there be an abundance of security caution? You know, but it was just frustrating to see like local news not reporting. Either they didn't have access to it or whatever, but it was just very frustrating.
And consistently like doing this as if they had some sort of issue with it. Like it was weird, as though they had an agenda. And I even, what's funny is on the Inside Edition piece, I commented on it, on the Inside Edition YouTube post that they put up. I commented on it. I was like, this is your fault. Like you guys did this. Now, because the thing is like now people are relying on these idiots to tell the truth because we can't rely on you to do it.
Right.
So, and these guys are not going to tell the truth. Dolly Vision does not tell the truth. JLR does not tell the truth. So here they are, they're upset and they're not talking about what they could talk about. They could have done a deep dive into these YouTubers. That would have been great. If they would have been like these YouTubers specifically, okay, you've got this Dolly Vision guy during the Summer Wells case. This guy absolutely spun a narrative that the parents did something to their daughter, even though there's no evidence of it. There's absolutely no, I mean, the police had already determined early on that there was no foul, that they ruled out any foul play from the family at all whatsoever. And, all of this was happening. So I spent a lot of time trying to not necessarily protect those parents because they live a questionable lifestyle as well. It's not, they're not exactly my favorite people. I don't have anything necessarily against them, but, and I haven't ruled out myself whether or not they had anything to do with Summer either. I'm just saying that you have no evidence. And now you're spinning a narrative because you found out that the masses are pitchforking and going, oh, they did it. And you're trying to capitalize on that momentum. That's what Dolly Vision always does. Dolly Vision will scan and check to see which momentum the masses are shifting and which way they're leaning. And then he will manipulate that for his own benefit. And he's always done this. And he's almost at 100,000 subscribers now doing it.
Wow.
I mean, but that's what gets you subscribers. What are you going to do? I mean, if you're just putting out what people are, if you're just basically putting a stamp on what people are saying, then they're going to go, yeah, we like this guy, They're not going to be so quick to do that to the person who goes, hey, public, chill out. You guys are jumping to crazy conclusions here without any evidence. I'm that guy, so I'm not going to be as popular. But I definitely want to attract the people who can see what's going on and go, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. Sorry for my language.
That's okay.
But they're going to be like, this is absolutely crazy. And so, like there's an audience there. You can still have integrity, but you are going to get a bigger audience if you, like you were talking about earlier, get in your car, drive out to the scene. It gives the appearance that you're a hands-on independent reporter when you're really not, what I mean? Like Dolly's going out there. Now, again, they're not doing anything illegal. If one of them were to get arrested and then you're not going to arrest any of the mainstream media reporters that are out there, we're going to have a problem. I'm going to speak out in their defense. Even though I don't like them, I'm going to speak out in their defense, and this is the whole Inside Edition making that little piece about it is, what did they think was going to happen? All they did was give them more popularity is really all they did. Again, the Streisand effect, the same thing they tried to do with Turtleboy.
Right.
And it blew up in their face.
Right.
So
that was such a huge thing about Aiden too, is Aiden was, he was essentially the Spartacus of content creators in terms of Karen Reed. And we saw how much, like, even through the mainstream media, they would call him a blogger. They'd call, or maybe they call him a content creator, but you'd never hear like journalist, because there's almost like with journalism in a modern sense, it's like, if you're not from the Boston Globe, the Providence Journal, the New York Times, was it the Chicago Sun-Times, the LA Times, if you're not writing for one of those outlets, like even Barstool Sports has become more and more legitimate over time with their ability to cover stuff. And for the longest time, it was just a blog. But that's the fight of independent journalists or content creators, is it's these other entities. They almost look at you like, well, you didn't go to college at such and such a place. You don't have a degree in such and such. You've never, I think what it is it's almost like if you were a lawyer, but you weren't a lawyer. You never went to law school, and
That's
you just
the way
wrote. That's
the way they see it. They
Right.
see it like like every one of these people, every one of those producers in a news station, every one of anybody who works in a news station, to get that job, they had to go to journalism school, most likely. They had to intern, which means work, as an assistant for some shitbag journalist for a year or 2 years or whatever to get where they're at. And then they're like, well, wait a second. You're telling me that all I had to do was just get my cell phone and turn on the camera and drive out to the place where they're at and act like a reporter to get successful? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's gonna make them mad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they hate it. It's like they look back and they got all the high tech equipment, but technologies. Look at John DePetro. I make fun of him for his stick, the stick holding the camera with the umbrella. But at the same time, that technology is available for you to literally go to a store, go live on the scene, stream it to your YouTube channel, and voila, you're covering the story live, which I think kind of, again, the local media gets a little bit envious about, because, we all, from one channel to the next, we all covered the Karen Reed case better than the local media did. They had the big, audiences and all that stuff with who they could reach, but they were never having discussions beyond, and Sue O'Connell. Look, you and I have both had discussions with Sue O'Connell on X over the years. Sometimes we're pretty positive, a lot of times not so much. But the issue with Sue O'Connell is Sue O'Connell can never fully represent her opinions because she is restricted to the job in which she works for Boston 10. So she can never really go out and say, well, I think this, well, I think that.
And it's so easy to troll her because she wants to so bad. You can tell. She wants to speak her opinion so bad, but she's restricted by the conglomerate that writes her a check every, whatever payday is. So she's bound by that. Here we are, and we can do whatever we want. We can, at the risk of you could get sued for libel if you're not speaking the truth, for sure. But the interesting thing is now we can't count on mainstream media to tell the whole story and tell the truth. Nobody can sue you for telling the truth. Yeah. You know what I mean? Nobody can sue you for telling the whole story as long as it's true, as long as it's not, as long as you can't prove it wrong. Right. And so this is, and some people will exploit this. Like JLR for years has been looking for a way to exploit everything. Just a way, he is a professional troll. Now with this situation, he's, like I said, I think he's gotten to a point where he's like, I don't have to do that anymore. Now I have enough followers. Now I can just show up to a scene and then I can talk, and I already have the viewers. I already have the followers. Now people just appreciate him for being out there because there's so many people out there that are just like, oh my God, how that's so great that he went out there and he's giving us this firsthand coverage. Oh my God, JLR's a hero. But really anybody can do that. Anybody who has the time and enough money to put a couple of tanks of gas in their car, can just go out there, camp out, make sure they got enough water and make sure they got, a couple of sandwiches and they're good. It really doesn't take much to do what they're doing, if anything at all, but so Inside Edition is like, what the hell? And I'm sure they don't like the fact, I'm sure that these mainstream media conglomerates don't like the fact that under fair use, we can absolutely just stream them for content. And how often do they get ratioed? How often was me streaming Boston 10 getting way more views than Boston 10's original stream was getting? How many times was Melanie Little doing it, or anybody else doing it? Anybody who's covering the trial in real time all day long? We were depending still on mainstream media to some degree, but in all fairness, you know, it's really just better, because at the end of the day, chances are there's going to be a Zoom hearing. It's not going to stop us. We'll still be able to get the documents on it. We're going to go over them. No mainstream media conglomerate ever goes and does a whole 2-hour, 3-hour piece on going over all of the motions, you know, and every part of the motion, and breaking down each part of the motion, or even just what you're getting out of it. I can't break down emotion. I could just explain what I'm getting out of it and how I feel about it.
Right.
You know,
100%. Exactly. And it's, I think, one of the things that people didn't expect either is just these lawyers on YouTube, the lawyer, you know, brother counsel, Melanie Little, and many other people that have had their own shows where people can tune into these shows and just listen to a breakdown from a lawyer. Or if you have Bettero on a show, for example, he can come on, break things down for you, which was invaluable to a lot of us that were following this, because, I mean, a lot of us have a greater understanding of things now, just because you can actually day in and day out. You know, Melanie Little, I mean, she follows a variety of cases. She's, you know, usually, you know, Kelsey Fitz Simmons, following that before I did. You know, she's right on top of these cases and right in it. And not only that, she gives you a legal analysis, but she also gives you her perspective on things, which is great as well, because that's what you want to hear. Because I don't want to hear, like, you know, a lot of times you see people that are on television like, well, you know, they'll give you like a restricted, and a lot of times, like we said, these people probably want to say more, but they probably can't when they're on these networks. But on YouTube, you know, you can go on, Melanie Little can go on, and Brother Counsel can go on, say whatever they want, whenever they want, react however they want, and just say how they feel. There's no restriction. I think with people in our world these days, they prefer to listen to a YouTube show, no matter whose channel it is, because they feel like they're going to get an unrestricted discussion. And like you said, there's no commercial breaks. There's no, you know, 10-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute segment. This is a sit down where every single night you can not only listen, but you can go in a chat, you can interact, you can post your comments and say what you think. You know, like someone saying here, you know, they just,
and we're one of them. You know, the way that they see it is like, this is one of us who sees things for, you know, okay, I'm not crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they just have to rely on some human robot to stand there and go, what, back to you.
Right.
And here we are, and we're like, wait a second, why does this suck so bad? And am I crazy? Why is this person doing this? And why does this judge think? Why isn't this judge seeing what this person is clearly doing, and they're just letting it go? This is crazy. And even without that, like, you still have somebody like Emily D. Baker, right? You take somebody like Emily D. Baker, who is very opinionated, but also stays within the bounds of ethics as an attorney, and will provide great attorney insight. That's the same with Melanie Little as well. Melanie Little is not a practicing attorney at the moment, but she's an experienced attorney. So people rely on her insight, and she is also very passionate. You know, you get a guy like Brother Counsel, he's not going to get necessarily as many views and as much of a loyal following as Melanie might. And that's not to say anything bad about Brother Counsel. It's just because Brother Counsel is a lot more careful about being emotional, and a lot more careful about being, you know, fired up when he sees something wrong. He's going to laugh, and he's going to make a joke about it. And that's why people watch Brother Counsel. And I love Brother Counsel for that reason. Right. He's great, you know, but when you're trying to attract an audience who is, genuinely passionate and even angry, you know, and that's not even, and it's not, you're not trying to attract them because of that. you're just trying to attract an audience.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And in the audience that you're attracting is going to be angry because they see what we see. You know, they see what we're watching, they see what we're talking about, and they're getting that validation from someone like Melanie Little, who is an experienced attorney, not a practicing one, but an experienced one, and and it validates them. Like me, that's totally what happens with me. I love when I have a thought about something and I get mad about it, and then I have to ask myself, because I'm not an educated guy, am I like reacting to this like an idiot? You know what I mean? Because I don't know what I'm talking about. And then I get that validation from an experienced attorney like the mighty Mark Betterow, or, Melanie Little, or, Brother Counsel, or Emily Baker, or any of the other law tubers. I mean, lawyer, we all love that. We whether we know it or not, whether we seek it or not, we do love that validation when we are asking ourselves if we're crazy or just stupid.
Right.
And someone with that kind of experience turns out to be just as passionate about this as we are, and goes, wait a minute, no, this is not okay. Let me tell you something. Like, in a court of law, for this reason and for this law and for this is not okay, and I've never seen this before. And then it makes you go, yeah, dude, okay,
right. Yeah, that's exactly what frustrates me about mainstream, is because we'll sit there day in and day out. I usually would have to wait at the lunch break or after work to catch this stuff, obviously, every day, and I'd be like, lunch break, after work, watching this, and I'm like, okay, what's happening? And a lot of times when you're watching the trial, you're seeing the judge, Beverly Cannoni, being absolutely horrible to the attorneys in the courtroom. And then all of a sudden it's like, am I the only one seeing this? You go on social media, everybody's like, this judge is the Wicked Witch of the West in modern day. Okay. And then you turn on like WBZ or something, and they're like, no, today Karen was in court. And it's like, you guys going to say anything about this judge? And it's just like you said, I think one of the things that's built up social media across the board is, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, or whatever, TikTok, is people want to relate with people that are seeing things in a similar sense. That, am I the only one watching this case right now and seeing that this judge is treating Karen? Is this funny to you, Miss Reed? Making comments like that. And then you go on YouTube, and I would always ask Mark Betterow on shows, I'm like, is it just me? Is there anything out of, like, I always thought Eliza Little was talked down to like she was a little girl knocking on Judge Beverly Cannoni's door to sell her Girl Scout cookies. Eliza Little, she would talk to her. I'm like, Eliza Little is not a child. She's a grown woman. And she would just talk down to her like that constantly. And then she'd go after Alessi. She'd give it, a hard time to Yannetti and Alan Jackson. It was like, come on. It's like, that's why YouTube was so great, during those trials, because everybody's sitting there like, man, this judge is, what? And you had everybody across the board saying it. That was free Karen Reed at least.
Yeah. I was thinking, at best, when I started covering Karen Reed, I was thinking at best that I might draw an audience if I found out that she was actually innocent. Because I was just like, let me just explore. People are saying she's innocent. I wonder if she is. Let's see. And then I went over it. But then but at best, what I was hoping for at best was that I would draw an audience and get some people's attention. But what ended up happening was there was already people that were like, this is all wrong, and then they saw that I was talking about it, some fucking guy from Tennessee, and they were like, yeah, dude, now you're getting it. And then it turned out to be the other way around, where people were educating me, and because I was still living in this weird shell where there's just no way that a local government would blatantly just frame a woman and then follow through with a prosecution so publicly. People are crazy for thinking this. And you know, because I'm like, there's no way that doesn't happen in the United States of America. What are these people doing? What are they talking about? And then sure enough, it was like, okay, yeah, there's a serious problem in Massachusetts right now, like a serious problem. Like our liberties, if this is happening in one state in this country, it is clearly already a danger that it could happen everywhere else if it's not happening many other places already, you know.
That's
Um,
what that's what got me involved in this too. Is I would read the articles, saw what Turtleboy was talking about, started watching other YouTube
but
networks. Yeah.
real
Okay.
quick, sorry, but that's what makes it. That right there is what makes it news. And that's where mainstream media dropped the ball. Why is this happening in our country? Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, whatever your political agenda is, if you are a patriot living in this country and you're saying rights, 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 then this should be something that mainstream media should be making the American people aware of.
Right.
And they're failing. But then you get guys like me, you, Aiden, of course, you know, coming along, and Aiden doing God's work, which is like doing what nobody else is doing, which is just like, okay, well, all right, everyone sees this. What's anyone doing about it? All right, well, I'll just get in my car, drive over there, and stick my phone in someone's face and ask them directly why they Googled this thing at 2:27 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just this one small example of what Aiden did. But it was just like, okay, well, but mainstream media wasn't doing that. And now we have, you know, now it's picking up traction. Now it's gaining momentum. And now people's standards are higher. They know what they're doing and they know what they want. They know what they expect to hear from their news, from their news sources. And when they're not giving it to them, and then they can't come up with a legitimate reason why, you know, besides, oh, well, I could get fired and the executives don't want me to say that, and blah, 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 blah. We need better than that. Like, we need better than that. And so people's standards got higher, and that's why we're at where we're at. I'm sorry. I just
That's
wanted
okay.
to finish my thought.
No, I know the way you are. I know you like, when you have a thought, you want to say it. No problem at all. Will, absolutely no problem at all, man. I always let my guests have that talking moment when they want to talk. No problem, brother. But yeah, that's to your point. That's exactly, what the issue has always been too is, I even look at the amount of people that followed the case. When you see the second trial happen, I was there during the verdict the first year. I was unable to make it for the second one, which bothers me to this day because I wish I was there. Unable to make it, unfortunately. But that second verdict, you look at the amount of people that are there the second year, it's so much more expansive. And that's, again, through the power of the internet. And I mean, I'm curious to know how many people were just simply, because a lot of people like myself, we heard about it through Aiden. Other people might have heard it through other channels. I was shocked when I heard people say they actually learned about the case through me. I still don't believe that, but people have said that to me. At least one of them. But how many people might have watched mainstream media to start and then turn to YouTube or X to find out more information on these cases. And then before you know it, they're tuning into YouTube shows every night. And they're learning more and more and more. And then before you know it, it's this massive amount of people that are out there, donning pink shirts, holding signs, doing standouts all across the state. And it's absolutely revolutionary in a sense that people came together in that manner and were able to fight for a common cause and bring, again, that amount of support to Karen, which is one of the most incredible things that we can possibly do. I think that's why it's so important. It doesn't matter. And I've always said this before, it doesn't matter if you're a content creator, social media, standouts, you do no matter what you do, across the board, everybody in some way, shape, or form came together to form an overall movement to drive interest and momentum, almost like a campaign, and to drive that amount of support for Karen Read to ensure that, because the media, they had no choice when they were out there to see other content creators and numerous supporters across the board out there every day and see so much energy of people coming together that even when the media was filming live, you know, you could see that, you know, footage every night on the news. That look at all the people on camera. Look at, I mean, even when they made the Lifetime movie, which we all laughed at, that had even Karen Reed supporters in the movie, because you can't tell the story without the supporters. It was just an amazing thing. And, you know, for Karen to one day in the early days be walking alone into that courtroom, and then to be supported by so many people was an amazing thing to have that support. But again, you know, something that without the internet, you know, we wouldn't have had that opportunity to do, because we would have never gone online on social media. We would have never gone on YouTube. And just like in the old days, it you know, there'd be a few people that would know the inner workings, inner details, and maybe would attend the case. And if it wasn't for the mainstream media, you know, how much light would they have given the story if there wasn't that much public interest? Because there's murder cases all the time in this state, and they don't get that kind of coverage.
No, they don't. It's funny, you know, like I said, you're going to get the bad with the good, you know, and again, this is mainstream media's fault when you have things like, when you have people like JLR, and you have Dolly Vision coming up, and they're idiots, you know, they're clowns. That's just the truth, you know, and Dolly Vision specifically, like, especially, like, the guy could barely put a coherent thought together. It's mind-blowing when you watch him, and it's all because he knows. One thing about him, though, is he's smart, because he knows what sells. He understands what sells. He understands how the momentum of the masses works, and he knows how to manipulate it. He knows how to adapt to it, and he knows how to manipulate it. So that's what he'll do: is he'll assess, he'll adapt, and then he'll manipulate. And it's that's a talent in and of itself. You cannot take that away from him. But know that when you watch him, you know what I'm saying? Like, at least know that when you watch him. You know, I'm not saying not to support Dolly Vision. If it's entertaining, it's entertaining. Right on. You know, I'm not saying not to support JLR. If it's entertaining, right on. You know, but have a standard for the facts. You know, demand that they show receipts. When someone says, this is what happened, this is what happened, and this is what happened, go, okay, whoa. Make sure you're listening and go, wait a minute. That sounds like, where did you get that from? Be quick to ask questions, you know, like, put them on the spot. Like, I love when people are like, you know, and it almost never happens to me, because I don't state things as fact unless I can show a receipt. Same with you, same with Aiden, same with anybody else who we respect, Nurse Kim, even Jimmy, who barely, you know, these days, right now, he's just focused on being entertaining. You know, right now he's just focusing on being as entertaining as he possibly can, because he loves the community, and we have a great community. So we're still here. We're still hanging strong. So let's fucking stay together and you know, and do what we do. But that standard is still there for all of us, no matter what our intentions are, no matter what our goals are. These people, the community, are holding our feet to the fire to make sure that we don't color too far outside the lines here. You know, they want to be able to rely on us, and we have a responsibility to be, at least to some degree, reliable for at least what they rely on us for. You know,
right?
And these guys they just want to get those numbers, those subscribers, get those subscribers. And I don't know, man. I just can't relate to that. Like, I'm to the point now where I'm just like, I don't even care if you subscribe. Like, I have a community for my channel that I've built that I'm very, very happy with, and my responsibilities, in my opinion, are now to them. But I'm not. I've never been that guy that's like, what do I got to do to get more subs? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? You know, like, and if you hustle, then you hustle. Right on. Good for you. I can't relate to it. I don't know. I'm, call me crazy, but I'm more interested in building a reputation of being reliable, you know, being somebody you can count on for the truth, being somebody that you can't ever say, all right, this guy, you know, I don't trust him. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy, you know, like I don't want, I don't want a million subscribers, you know, and there's another million that are like, oh God, man, this guy is a fucking horrible shitbag. Jesus. All he's doing is just screwing things up. You know, like I look at Nancy Grace. I don't like Nancy Grace at all. She does that constantly. She's just, you know, and I know a lot of people like Nancy Grace. Like Annie Elise is one of my dearest, closest friends. Yeah. She idolizes Nancy Grace, even though I think she's 100 times better, has way more integrity than she does. She loves Nancy Grace. I'm like, ugh, hate that lady. But it's because, you know, I can't count on Nancy Grace to rely to give me, you know, accurate information. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that's what's great too about like a multitude of channels is every channel can, I always can compare it to a potluck dinner. You know, somebody brings meatballs, not to make fun of the DA, but somebody brings salad, somebody brings, you know, shrimp, somebody brings other chicken wings, you know, all this stuff, it all comes together. What's great is you have a variety, whereas Nurse Kim's in the house. What's going on, Nurse Kim? Great show last night. I always start smiling every time I see Nurse Kim on our lives when I tune in. I loved her last night.
Great live with the Mighty One this morning, Nurse Kim. Thank you for that. That was awesome.
I got to watch that in replay because I slept in this morning.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. Like I kept falling in and out because it was early in the morning and my phone was right next to me and I'm still laying in bed cuddling with Clubber and I'm just like, and then I fall asleep and then wake up and you know. But it's always great and you know everything that I did get to hear was brilliant. So
yeah. Absolutely. And Mark's awesome. Bettero's been great. And Nurse Kim and Mark Bettero have been awesome. They had to do the service today because of tomorrow's the gold medal game, which I'll be watching. I pondered live streaming that, but I'm not going to do it.
Be watching that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can't wait for that game. And so
I don't even really care, but I'm going to be watching it because I know it's going to be good.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a good one. And, you know, the U.S. lost the gold medal game to them in 2010, I recall. And we haven't won it since the 1980. The Miracle game. So this is going to be the first, you know, another chance at this gold medal again, which, and the problem is Canada is always, they're never going to be stopped. That's a cocky nation. You know, they're always going to be competitive to the end of time. But if we beat them, I mean, that's going to be massive bragging rights.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, and it's just, the country kind of needs that little uplift right now. Like it's, you know, not to get all into that, but you know, things are crazy right now. And there's a lot of, let's just say morale is down for patriotism at the moment.
Yeah. So. Yeah, pretty much. And the women's team just beat the Canadian women for the gold medal yesterday or the day before. I think it was 2 days ago. Yeah, it was Thursday. They ended up winning. So that was good news.
Yeah, I mean, if we could beat Canada in hockey, I mean, it's already awesome that it's down to the U.S. and Canada, dude. Like, of all teams, you know what I mean? Yeah, dude, we want to beat Canada because that's just Canada's thing is hockey.
Yeah. Someone says Mazza's channel needs more recognition, in my opinion. Thank you for that. I appreciate that comment. Thank you so much.
I've always said that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I got to say, getting back to what we were talking about before. I think that's what's great about social media is you can go to whatever channel you want to watch. And you know, like you just described earlier, you do your channel your way. I do my channel my way. Nurse Kim does it her way. And that's what's so great about YouTube is you can decide what you want to do or not do. And like Tommy CPU, what was great about his program is he would do two types of things. He would do on location streaming, and then he would do a show with Boston Mike. So it's great because you can kind of really variate technologically what you want to do with your show. And then you can also just stream video. And if you want to film like non-live video too, then upload that later. you have those options, which I think is great because it gives everybody, get your Kleenex ready. Canada will prevail, but you can dream. Miracle on Ice is over. And that's Canadian currency coming in right there too from Dennis. That's funny.
Yeah, like we're just,
Yeah.
I can't speak for anybody else. I'm just like, I believe in the USA. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't know who's the better team. I don't know. You know.
I met people from Calgary when I was at the Bruins Calgary Flames game about 2 years ago. And they flew all the way in. I was talking to them, and it was like I'd never met anybody from Calgary. It's Western Canada, for those that don't know. And I was just like, this is awesome because I never, because I've talked to people from Canada from the eastern side, Ontario, Toronto, Montreal. Not that I've ever been there, but I've talked to people from there. But I never met someone in person from Calgary. So I'm like, I see these people in Calgary Flames jerseys at the Harp, and I'm like, I walk right up to them. I introduce myself, start talking to them, and it's just, I don't know. I just like to meet people from all over the place. It was awesome. So,
have you seen the movie Goon?
With Sean William Scott, I've seen it once, but not in a long time.
Oh my God, dude! I watch it again, and then and watch it, knowing that I just said that I consider it to be one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
Yeah,
easily. And the sequel was good too. Like, surprisingly, there was a sequel, and I was like, oh my God, like they made a sequel to this. And yeah, because I didn't think the first movie made enough money to make a sequel. You know what I mean? But it did, and it's hilarious. Like, it's easily one of my favorite sports movies. And it's so funny. I don't really follow sports, but I love sports movies. Like football movies. Like, I just go down the line of football movies that I like. I mean, from The Longest Yard to The Replacements.
The Replacements.
Yeah,
Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman. Yeah.
That movie's so funny. That movie is hilarious.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a great movie, and that was a great movie at the time. The Replacements, because there was a lockout and they had to replace all the players, and Keanu Reeves is the quarterback, and Hackman's
like a great premise for a story. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you've got all these football players who are all spoiled. They don't think they're getting paid enough. They just decide to strike, and then they hire. What if it's a bunch of guys who would kind of metaphorically fits to what we're talking about here? Like, you have all of these pro people who are doing things because that's what they're supposed to be doing, kind of, and whatever, and and living that lifestyle and whatever. And then you've got people who are hungry and would be like, I would love to be in your position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it better, and I'm going to do it harder. Right. And that was these guys. These guys are okay. Well, you're not getting paid enough. I'll practically pay for free. I'll play for free. I don't care. I just love the game. And that's pretty much us YouTubers when it comes to talking about these cases. We talk about them because we care about what's going on, and some of us, if we're lucky, we get to make money doing it. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of us, me, myself, I went a long time doing this without any money coming in, and then very little money coming in. And, but I have never, ever changed, because why I do this is because I care about what I'm talking about. Right. I'm always consistent because how I feel about what I'm doing has always been consistent.
That's how I feel too, because I don't I couldn't come on a show if I didn't care about Karen Reed or Kelsey Fitz Simmons, I could never do a show, because I mean there's numerous cases out there, numerous stories out there. There's a lot of them that fellow people. Common Sense Investigator. Subscribe to her channel, by the way. She's doing a Kelsey fundraiser tomorrow for I'll Be On There, Nurse Kim and Broken Baker and Claudia King. She follows more cases than I ever could. I'm interested in Karen, Kelsey, Aiden. But she was following another case recently. And I'm like, I always have to pick Brian Walsh. I kind of got into for a moment, but I'm like, with me, I don't have the mind to follow, a lot of cases. I pick my one or two, and I'm like, okay, that's all I can do, because I got to cover sport. I talk about sports in my spare time too. I think Karen Reed and Turtleboy, the Karen Reed and Turtleboy saga ruined me, man, because if I see, when I looked at Brian Walsh, I was like, he did it.
what's there to follow here? You know,
Yeah.
like other than the connection to Norfolk County, you know what I mean? Like that was the only interest that I had in it, because I was like, this guy clearly did it. There's no question, there's no sleuthing here. It's just a question of like, how good of a job did the Massachusetts State Police do is the question. You know, did they gather enough evidence to be able to prove that he did this in a court of law to make sure that he never does this to anybody again? That's the question.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy. Like I stopped with the missing person cases because of creators like Dolly Vision and because of creators like JLR. I mean, it's just always like the formula is person goes missing. Who are the loved ones? Let's find out who they are. And then let's dox them, go crazy, dig into every single thing in their past, find something that seems nefarious, and then create a narrative that they're the ones responsible. That's just the common formula for YouTubers covering missing persons cases. And it's ugly. It's so ugly because, you know, everyone who's following this stuff thinks that they're Scooby-Doo, and they're going to like, oh, it must have been this person. Ooh, I don't like the way this person looked into the camera at that moment right there. Ooh, we need to look at that. We need to look at them a lot closer. And then what they do is they convince themselves that this person did something without any evidence. Right. And then they find anything that is anything that could be used from their past without even considering. And this isn't even the YouTube creator's fault so much as it is the person supporting that YouTube creator, because the person supporting that YouTube creator is looking for validation. You know what I mean? They're just going, oh my God, it must have been them, you know? Yeah. And then this person this YouTuber who is perpetuating this narrative is validating them. And then they start throwing money at them. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's really, really bad, because what ends up happening with missing persons cases when you do this is all of these people think that they have figured it out.
Yeah.
And then what they do is they start calling tip lines. And when it's a missing persons cases, especially if it's a kid, right? When it's a missing persons case, they flood it with tip lines with crazy stories. And the problem is that they have to follow up on every tip. They can't just blow it off and go, yeah, whatever, you know? Oh, you heard that from a YouTuber? Whatever. But if it comes out later that this person died because they didn't follow up on a lead because it came from a YouTuber, well, then they're going to get all kinds of scrutiny. The police department, the DA's office, going to get all kinds of scrutiny. And then this YouTuber who had a lucky guess, most likely, turns out to get put on a pedestal, and then they become the next Nancy Grace. And it's insane.
Yeah.
You know?
That's crazy. And it's just these cases too, these kidnapping and missing person cases. They, you know, I forget her name now. Was it Chandra Levy that disappeared before 9/11? Was that her name? I forget the name now, but there was a woman that disappeared. And then once 9/11 happened, that, what was that person's name? Yeah, I think it was Chandra Levy. She disappeared, and that story was like the biggest like topic. And then once 9/11 happened, it just disappeared off the mainstream forever, all for obvious reasons. But it was, you know, those stories. Just my point in bringing that up is that those missing person stories, they usually don't have any kind of short term. And when I mean short term, I mean in under a week to a year. A lot of times, enough of that outcome. And that's what bothers me about Nancy Guthrie is it can turn into okay, she's missing. Okay, we're investigating. And the next thing you know, a decade goes by. And they never find her, which is what's so crazy about investigations like that and covering stories like that is that, you know, when you cover a trial, for example, there will be, at least in a courtroom sense, you know, Karen Reed, Kelsey Fitz Simmons, Aiden, whomever, Brian Walsh, whomever, there will be an outcome one way or the other. Where these missing person cases are very, I mean, those are very devastating cases. Yeah.
Right. That's the whole thing, and that's part of the grift is, you know, you have these YouTubers like it doesn't benefit a guy like Dolly Vision for the person to be found. You see what I'm saying? Because then they have to come up with a new grift. You know what I mean? So that's why I just don't, I can't, you know what I mean? And I have some of the same audience, but I'm not building as much of an audience because the minority are people who actually want the person found. Everybody says they want the person found. Everybody tells themselves that they want the person found, but they really love to just have something on the internet to rile them up and get them angry and get them all upset and start, oh my God, how dare this person? Because otherwise they wouldn't be so quick to point fingers at innocent people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just because they need somebody to point the finger at. This is what they get off on. They get on the internet and they go, oh my God, who are we going to go after today? Yeah. You know, oh, well, a potential child killer. Okay. Well, what makes them that? Well, it's statistically, it's the closest person who's, you know, the closest person to that missing person that's guilty. So I'm going by that. And I'm like, that's what you're going by?
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I've seen it happen to where, like, Summer Wells still hasn't been found. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what happened to her. Her parents, the state took the other kids out of the house for unrelated reasons. But now it seems like they've been picked up over. I mean, this was 5 years ago now that Summer went missing. And now, as I understand it, I could be wrong, but they're building their lives back up and they're trying to do what they have to do. And they're getting their kids back, the other kids back, and making sure that they have a home for their kids. And what really sucks about that is, you know, whether you approve of their lifestyle or not, you know, it doesn't mean that they're guilty of a crime. Like, we're here about a specific crime. We're not here to talk about, you know, 20 years ago when this guy, you know, might have gotten in a domestic argument with his girlfriend and they called the cops. You know what I mean? We're not dealing with, that's not relevant to the case itself. You know what I mean? A lot of people have these issues and then nobody goes missing. You know what I mean? Everybody has personal issues. There wouldn't be a show like Cops that was so successful for, I don't know, 20 years that it was on the air.
Generation.
Right. Yeah. So a show like Cops, there wouldn't be so much content for them if everyday people didn't have to call cops all the time for whatever reason. You know, it doesn't mean that they are child murderers or that they are, you know, kidnappers or, you know, I mean, it's so crazy. And a lot of people don't even apply the logistics to any of it. Like, you have, you know, Dolly Vision made a ton of money accusing these parents of something that happened to Summer. And he's just simply not paying attention, or he sees it. He just doesn't care. Yeah. But it's you know, what these people, they get hammered drunk and then they go on somebody's YouTube show for hours, ranting, talking, and not one slip up. These are not smart people. These are not intelligent people. They're not even that street smart, you know? So these are people who do drywall for a living. Not saying that if you do drywall, you're not intelligent. I'm saying there's all of these different little factors that, like, they could barely, they don't have proper grammar when they talk. They're just, and they could barely form a coherent sentence, and people will push their buttons trying to just elicit some sort of admission of guilt out of them. Right. Shit. And push their buttons and get them angry. And, oh my God, Don Wells is drunk. I'm going to get him on the show. Oh my God, we got to get him on the show. And then sure enough, this guy will be drunk and be like, yeah, I got something to say. And he wants to address all the trolls. And he's like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. You all don't know. You know, I've got my relationships with God and blah, 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 blah. But never even so much. And he will answer questions in regards to the case, which he shouldn't, because it could hinder the investigation. Right? But he still does it. And these people, instead of going, hey, let the professionals handle this, they want to be the one that got Don Wells to admit to his guilt. You know what I mean? Or say something that slipped, and then they'll take any little thing and then they'll run with it for a week and be like, why did Don Wells say this? That was weird. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And there's no, right, they're not masterminds at all. And we're talking about committing the perfect crime. You've got a small child disappeared from their house, right? From their house. No evidence, nothing to indicate that they had anything to do with it. And you're telling me that these people, these very simple people, and I mean that in every sense of the word, these very simple people somehow committed the perfect kidnapping and murder without a trace of DNA, without a trace of evidence, without a trace of blood, without a trace of anything. Right. You're going to tell me that these people just who can't even have enough sense to keep their mouth shut on the internet, they committed the perfect crime? Like, even Jen McCabe knows how to stay off of the internet, you know, and not talk. You know what I mean? Like, Brian Higgins knows how to stay off the internet and not talk. You know, like, all of these people, you know, like, you look at people who we know are guilty versus people who you're going, I don't know. And these people who you go, I don't know, all you have to do is look at their behavior, and you have to just assess everything. You look at everything, not just the one day where the crime could have taken place. And even still, when there's no evidence there, you got to look at everything. Like, what's the motive? Was there a motive? Why would they take this little girl out to a lake and go swimming and then bring her back and take a picture of her sleeping in the car and, you know, post TikTok videos of her dancing in the rain, you know, and they came off like loving parents, you know, in their own way. I mean, did they live up to the standards that most of us have for what parents should, as far as money that they should be making, as far as luxuries that they should be providing their kids, even some necessities for sure. There's a reason why the state took their kids, of course, but they weren't, there was no indication of any abuse. There was nothing of that. There was nothing to indicate any of this. And everyone judged them based on their lifestyle. Everyone called them murderers because they were poor, basically. And grew up poor, and generations before them were poor. You know, every generation before them was poor, you know, and so it's like, they don't sit there and look at this stuff and go, for 5 years, these people have been jumping on YouTube channels and running their mouths on pills, on alcohol, depressed because their other kids are gone, that, you know, and not one single slip up, not one suspicious thing that they say. And so what are they? They're masterminds disguised as simple people. Get out of my face with that. I don't want to hear that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, to get to your point, that's what bothers me a little bit about the Nancy Guthrie case, is that the more the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping is, the more that goes on, you know, there's speculation that a lot of times, like when we think about like Karen Reed's case or Kelsey Fitzsimmons' case, there's a lot to go off of to believe that Karen Reed is innocent, or believe that Kelsey is innocent, or Kelsey in some way didn't commit a criminal act. There's enough information there to make a strong suggestion. But when I go on the internet and start to read about Samantha Guthrie and all that, you know, all that's going on, and people are saying, oh, it's Savannah. It could be Savannah that kidnapped her. It's like, what do they have to really go off? I mean, I think everything's in play, don't get me wrong. But at the same particular time, when I start to see a campaign online that suggests Savannah had something to do with this, I asked the very first question: give me a reason give
What's
me
the
not
motive?
only one reason, but give me a handful of reasons why you think not only she would do that, but how that would apply practically
Right.
in reality.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just you just need, like, where's the motive? Like, why aren't you looking for motive? Why aren't you doing the basic thing that anybody would do to try to to try to figure out, like, the first thing is who benefits. The first person to look at is who would benefit from this crime. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
Right.
Sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes it's a crime of passion, and who knows? You know what I'm saying? But you've got, I remember there was another person. This person's getting all kinds of accolades now because she's talking about the, what's her face, the one that Turtleboy would paint the eyebrows to make fun of.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I forget her name too. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, she was an intriguing character, to say the least.
Right. When I first started on
12 hours or something. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. When I started on YouTube, there was a creator that I sort of collabed with here and there. Her name was, she went by J is for Justice. She goes by something else now. And there was a case. It's a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. There was a case, and that's actually what made me start to go, okay, I don't want anything to do with, I don't want to build a channel this way. This is not how I want to do it. You know what I mean? And there was this case, this woman named Heidi Broussard went missing. Okay. She had a boyfriend, but her baby daddy as well, father of her child, and his name was Shane. God, what was his last name? I just have brain farts sometimes. But anyway, she had a boyfriend, and they had a little baby, and this little baby, her name was Margot. The baby was 2 weeks old. The mother, Heidi, and the baby Margot go missing, right? Internet goes crazy. Internet starts saying, Shane did it, Shane did it, Shane did it. Shane goes on and does a heartfelt, like, cry for help on television, and is like, if you have any information, he's crying, if you have any information, please, blah blah blah. He's pleading with the public to help because he has no idea. He comes home from work, his girlfriend and baby are gone. He doesn't know where they are, and that's it. That's all he knows, so he's freaking out now. Everybody, Shane Carey is his name, actually. Sorry, just his last name just hit me. So of course there's always people and friends around these people, and what these YouTubers will do is they'll seek out. They go into their social media, and then they go, oh, who's this person always commenting? And then they go and DM that person and say, would you like to come on my show and talk about this person and give your thoughts? Maybe share what kind of a great person they are, and blah, blah, blah. But J is for Justice, what she did is she reached out to this so-called friend, and then they were trash talking Shane Carey for like ever, right? Totally painting a picture that this guy did it, right? And they felt perfectly confident because it's always the boyfriend, right? So they felt perfectly confident in doing this. And then what ends up happening is, and I remember I was listening I was working that job at the gym, and I was listening to the stream, and for 3 hours, she just went on and on. These two people just hammered this guy, making him out to be a horrible person as much as they could, based on nothing, just based on this woman's word. And then while she has this woman on, the case breaks on the news. All of a sudden, there's a raid. And it just so happens that she's live with this person. And just because she was live with this person while the case broke, then she ends up getting contacted. Hold on. Well, actually, I'm going too far. I'm going too far ahead. So then it turns out that they raided the house of another friend of hers, another friend of Heidi's, They raided her house because you don't fucking know what's going on with these investigations. You can sit there and speculate all you want, but you have no idea what kind of leads these law enforcement officers have. The professional investigators, you don't know what kind of leads they have and what they're following up on. This woman was not on anybody's bingo card. This Megan Faramuska, that was her name, Megan Faramuska. This woman, nobody knew who the hell she was. Nobody ever heard of her, nothing. Turns out that she pretended to be pregnant the entire time Heidi was pregnant, and they were prego buddies, walking around. Oh my God, yeah, blah blah blah, and then this woman actually made her way into the delivery room while she was delivering the baby. She was friends with her for 2 weeks, whatever, and then the next thing you know, this woman kills Heidi, steals her baby. Right? Baby's missing for God knows how. Yeah, they made a Lifetime movie about this too, by the way.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And so then Good Morning America, the local news in Texas reaches out to JS for Justice. Then Good Morning America picks up that news story. And then Dateline picks up the Good Morning America story and flies JS for Justice out to New York. And she did nothing about that case. Nothing except spread false rumors about the boyfriend who was literally like destroyed with worry, fear, grief, everything, every negative thing that a loved one could experience in a situation like that. This poor guy was experiencing, and she decided to edit the video, cut it to only the part where they raided the house while this person was on, omitted all of the trash talking she did about the boyfriend, and then ended up on Dateline featured talking about the story. And she got celebrated for doing what? For trashing the boyfriend? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what YouTube true crime creators do with missing persons cases, and this is why it made me sick, and this is why I was just like, I'm done with all of this. I'm done with you people. All you people suck. I can't relate to you. I don't want your audience. I don't even want to try to change them. Fuck them. Fuck everything. I'm done. And I was over it. And then the Karen Reed thing happened, and this has been, believe it or not, like all of the trolling and all of the negative people and all of the doxing, this is nothing in comparison to what I dealt with in that community. Nothing.
Wow. That's insane to hear.
Right. It is insane. Like it's nothing in comparison. I am still, even though this is the first time I've really been doxed, I still feel like this has been the most rewarding experience of my life, was being on the right side of something and fighting for someone's rights, and just having just a small part of that is the most humbling and most awesome thing that's ever happened to me. Because this is what I've been looking for when I started YouTube. I wanted to be part of something that mattered. I wanted to be part of a difference that was being made. I wanted to have just contribute what little I could contribute to it. I wanted to do that. And you couldn't do that with that community, because that community is only looking to put people's heads on a pike and then move on to the next thing, to do the same thing to the next person.
Wow.
And I just can't, I won't.
That's what, for me, I got inspired by supporting Karen Reed. I started off as someone that already had a YouTube channel that had been kind of shut down for a while, because me and my friends kind of got burnt out with it. And I really didn't know if I'd ever do YouTube again. And then I learned about the Karen Reed story, took to Twitter over it. And then it was actually Microdots that was reaching out to me behind the scenes. Like, I've heard some of your call-ins on some shows. You should get your channel going again. So I did, and it started slow, but I realized, like if Microdots reaches out to you, like, is there anybody more inspiring to do that? Like, dude, wake up, get to work, let's go. You know what I mean? I'm right there, bro. I'm right there. What do you need from me? Oh, man. It was a great inspiration. And then, I realized, like, throughout the whole process that, we could raise awareness, but another thing we can do that's really huge, and you really see me implementing this with Kelsey Fitz Simmons right out of the gate, is the fundraising aspect. I felt that, you did a lot of 12 hours. You've done fundraisers for Karen. You've done fundraisers for Aiden, $10,000 this past week. Kelsey, you're going to be joining me next week on that. This is like, as content creators, we can do our channels. That's great. But I think if we can also use our channels to not only raise awareness, but to raise funds for these people that we're supporting. And like I said, I know there's a lot of differences of opinion online. I know some people like Karen, but not Aiden, like Aiden, but not Karen, like both, like neither. There's variables all across the internet, but nonetheless, how
about you like freedom? How about
justice,
that?
Yeah. Justice, 100%. And that's like, like I said a couple weeks ago on this show, that's what I'm focused on, is the justice aspect, is that I don't feel like what Karen's gone through, what Aiden's gone through, what Kelsey's gone through are justifiable, because of the fact that you have powers that be that are using their power to unjustly, do what they're doing, and try to put these people in jail, and whatever. And like I said, whether you like these people or don't like these people, whether you think high or low of them, there needs to be, there should not be like, oh, these people should go to jail because of whatever, I just don't agree with that from a justice standpoint. And that's why I say, like, if you can do a fundraiser, you can legitimately help them to have a better chance to defend themselves. And with Kelsey, when I started covering that, because people would ask me, like, when I first met a lot of people that were Karen Read supporters during, I started to meet a majority of them during the verdict for the first trial. People would ask me, like, because at that point the attitude was kind of like, we all expected there was going to be a jury verdict, Karen was going to be acquitted, there was never going to be a second trial, so forth and so on. And people were asking, like, hey, what's the next story you're going to cover? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And realistically, I kind of was thinking like this Karen Read thing would be like a one-time deal, that I'd cover it, see her acquitted, maybe talk about it a little bit in passing from that point on, and that's it. And then a year later, there was a second trial. And then Kelsey Fitzsimmons happened. And this, for me, was the first story where I was like, because when I cover a story, I have to have like an interest in it. I have to really believe in it. It has to be something I'm passionate about, because if I'm not, I just won't do it. I will, like Brian Walsh, I just won't talk about it. Maybe I talked about him once or twice, or had a segment about him once. I can't remember now. But, if I don't have that passion for it, I just won't have the motivation to come on a show and do it unless I believe in it.
I won't have the content. You know what I mean? Like my content is my genuine passion for these things, like my rants when I get mad about it, or when I, or if I feel inspired to be so sarcastic that it's funny, you know what I mean? Like, that stuff's not going to happen if I don't care about what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, this stuff, like, people, like, I know that the petty stream stuff that I'm doing seems very lowbrow and whatever it is. That's true. But I'm passionate about it because I'm passionate about this community. This is a community that I've always said has embraced me. I'm always very grateful for it. And it being, and we won't get too deep into that. I'm not trying to start.
I don't want to cut into it too much. Yeah.
I won't, I promise.
Okay,
but I'm saying though, I'm just explaining why I feel passionate about it, is because if, this community, if somebody's going to come along and try to split it and think that that's an angle to make money by splitting this community that I've grown to care about so much, then yes, I'm going to do these petty streams and I'm going to be passionate about it, because I don't hate anybody, but I care about the people who are being manipulated and lied to. So I'm just keeping it real. So I find it necessary, and that's why I addressed it so much. But people were complaining and going, oh my God, drama. And I'm like, this is necessary. But then it was just like, okay, well, then don't watch it. And if you're counting on me to talk about stuff and then not have to hear that, then okay, then I'll put the drama stuff that's related to that. behind a paywall, and that way everyone wins. People who really want to see it will watch it. You know, people who don't won't have to worry about it. Don't subscribe to it. Don't you know what I mean? So, but it's necessary. I will not just ignore someone trying to throw a grenade in what we've built here, because it doesn't have to stop here. If we build this community and we produce results that are in the interest of justice, then what's to stop us from doing something else when somebody else is going through this similar thing that Karen Reed went through, or whatever Aiden is going through? You know what I mean? This is the path that I would prefer to go down moving forward on YouTube. This is what I want to do. I don't care if it produces a lot of views or not. This is, great. Like, petty streams are going to come and go. You know what I mean? Like, there was a long time where they weren't necessary. Everybody was happy and everybody was getting along, and I was very happy and everybody was getting along. But, when it came down to what I was doing, I only did that because people were complaining. So I was like, all right, this is the best way to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
So, but my point being is, if I'm not passionate about it, I'm not talking about it. If I don't have strong feelings about it, I'm not talking about it. And yes, I have strong feelings about this community and I care about it. So, if people are going crazy talking about it, going, what the hell are these people doing? These people are doing horrible things, blah, blah, blah. And I have feelings about it. Well, then I'm going to express it,
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone has runs their channel the way they do. And, I think, like, for me, like Kelsey Fitz Simmons, the fundraising, one of the things I learned about the Karen Reed case was how much we could benefit her financially. And there were so many programs, your show, my show, Nurse Kim, many other shows, that did Karen Reed fundraisers that exponentially increased her ability to defend herself. And I looked at Kelsey going into it. I'm like, one of the things I thought we were most effective in was not only raising awareness, but raising funds. And with that, I said, one of the things I wanted to do for Kelsey was right out of the gate to do a series of consistent fundraisers over time to drive three things: awareness, up-to-date insight with each show, and then a revenue of fundraising for her each show. That way she could have everything she needed to financially defend herself. And people say, well, some people say, oh, Mazza, this person that tagged me recently, she was, I think she was somebody from the anti-Karen Reed world. In fact, it's just like, all you're doing is you're defending another person that's a criminal again, and so forth and so on. And I said, well, I guess at the end of the day, here's the thing. I believe Kelsey's innocent. I still believe Karen Reed's innocent. That's never going to change. But at the end of the day, all of this is ultimately decided in a court of law anyways. And I figure if I support these individuals, then why not raise money for them and give them their best swinging chance to defend themselves? And because, again, like I said, we talked about earlier, we do the shows that we're passionate about. We talk about whatever topic we wish to talk about. And I said to myself, if I can help Kelsey financially by doing fundraisers, Common Sense Investigators also doing them, it's like, it just puts everybody in a best position. And I know your fundraiser this week, 10,000 for Turtleboy, was another addition to him, and giving him an opportunity with an elongated case. And, it's, everyone supports Karen Reed, unless you're anti-Karen Reed.
Yeah, I absolutely support Karen Reed, just because I've had personal interactions with her that should have never been public in the first place.
Right.
That, that doesn't affect in any way, shape, or form my opinion on what took place on January 29th, 2022 and beyond. That has nothing to do with anything. So yeah, no, I 100% still support Karen Reed. I still support the Reed family, and I still support Aiden 100%. It doesn't have to be, this whole splitting is an illusion. It's an illusion that it's only real if you buy into it. But it's an illusion. at the end of the day, Aiden is fighting for is fighting for your free speech, and it's only on the line right now because he brought in information to the public in regards to Karen's case and made Karen's case very, very public. And so therefore we should all be supporting Aiden, whether he has issues with Karen or not. That's not relevant. Whatever his personal issues with Karen are is not relevant.
And I feel too, on that point, I feel like it's the same ultimately behind the scenes, regardless of whatever the temperature is or how the temperature's changed, whether who's still on good terms with who or not, all that aside, I still feel and look at this through the lens of the same people that are still to this day giving Karen a fight in court as of this week are the very same people that are trying to put Aiden behind bars. And I also see a similar comparison to that with Kelsey, where it's a different police department, it's a different set of circumstances, but to me it just feels the same, where another person is going down unjustly and things are being said about them that are not really fair, to have a child taken away like that, to see someone that's covering a case go to jail for 60 days, to see Karen Reed, who never ran over her boyfriend, go through 2 damn trials and now to this point still trying to get her phones back because they're trying to take down Aiden too. It just, to me, it all, like, that's what people say, like, Mazza, why don't you engage in the drama? Because I feel like for me, I want to just be focused on
that you don't. I love that you don't.
I want to be focused on, like, I can't get over the fact, like, because I say to myself, like, what if I was in Aiden's shoes or anybody else was in Aiden's shoes, and they, like, I could see, like, you're going to send someone to jail. I mean, that's why I can't get over that. And I feel like my attitude has always been a team attitude, which is, I want to try to support everybody. I want to try to be on good terms with everybody. I want to pray for resolution. I want to be able to I'm a reach across the aisle person by nature, meaning I feel like I can talk to people regardless of opinion and side and try to come to a centralized type of resolution on things. So every day I pray for everybody. I do that people can push problems aside and work together. I know sometimes that's probably not going to be practical in reality. I get it. But I feel like at the end of the day, this was a free Karen Reed team, and Aiden was a Karen Reed supporter. And at the end of the day, they put him in jail. They're trying to put him back in jail. And my attitude is, it doesn't matter if it was Aiden or anybody else. I don't want to see anybody that was free Karen Reed ever go down. So I'll come on this show. I'll make fun of John DePetro. I'll make fun of anti-Karen Reed people, but I don't ever engage with anybody in a confrontation or back and forth that's ever pro Karen Reed, because my attitude is, if you're pro Karen Reed, we're all on the same team. So I just pray that day in and day out, everybody can find a path to peace and resolution. And if it doesn't happen, I totally get it. People have their opinions. That's fine. But I still can't, in good conscience, see Aiden go to jail regardless of anything people think he did, that he did, whatever it is, without saying, hell, does he really deserve to go to jail for these charges that are really, that's what kind of sticks out to me, and people asked me about this a month or two ago, and I addressed it on this show, and I'm like, I just can't, in good conscience. You mean to tell me that we all fought for Karen, and at the end of the day, we're going to allow one of the people that was on our side, Karen Reed's side, free Karen Reed, to go down, and that's why people said, like, why don't you pick a side? Why don't you pick a side? I'm like, well, because I'm not looking at it as Karen versus Aiden. I'm looking at it as Karen and Aiden being attacked by these other people. And right. I feel like if that other side, here's my honest thought. I just can't bother to see anti-Karen Reed ever get the win in anything in terms of, like, we got Karen to go to jail. We got, it's just how I look at it. I don't.
You're talking about a group of people who just dismiss common sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, So there's really no,
Yeah.
I know that if Aiden were up here, he would be a lot more colorful about it. But
Yeah, right. To say the
but
least. Yeah, I'd say
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. And if I was on my
Yeah.
channel, I'd probably be a lot more colorful. I would be a lot more colorful about it too, most likely. But
Uh,
the fact is that these are people who just don't deal in common sense ever. So and this is something that they all collectively seem to have in common.
yeah.
And so it's real easy to just lump them up in a group of people as anti Karen Reed people.
Yeah.
And to me at this point it's synonymous with stupid. So, I mean, you're just ignoring evidence and you're ignoring facts and you're picking and choosing what you think is fact, and then you're twisting that to mean something else, and just because you wanted to meet your narrative. And it's insulting because it's like you have some people like myself personally who sat there and went over every document as much as I could and looked for everything. I was trying to find, I mean, I'm the guy that goes against the grain. So
Yeah.
here I have a chat full of people who is actually telling me, who actually believe Karen is innocent. But I'm trying to find reasons why she is, so I could just, because I had nothing to lose at the time. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm flying solo anyway. I don't have a community anymore. So I was like, I was looking for a reason to be like, sorry to tell you kids, but she's guilty, you know? And that just never happened. I kept finding more and more reasons why she was clearly innocent.
Yeah.
More reasons, one after the other. The more I read, the more I realized this. And then pre-trial hearings where more stuff kept coming out.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, this is insane that this is even happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and the fundraisers are so important, like you're out here. That's why I really like any little reservations, as I explained on my show yesterday, any little reservations I had about Kelsey's innocence or guilt here. I mean, I'm to the point to where if we're going to get down to the legalities of it, why didn't they follow procedure when executing this whole RO? There's no way that you show up there to take a child without a representative for the child. The cops don't count as a representative for this child.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff is just real shady. So yeah, anything that I can do to help, I'll probably, of course, do my own fundraiser at some point for Kelsey Fitz-Simmons. What I'm thinking tomorrow, what I'd like to do tomorrow is I'm going to do. I want to do a fundraiser for. I was waiting for a legit GoFundMe to drop. Erica Walsh shared it, so now that that's out there, I want to do a fundraiser, just whatever I can do for a few hours, for Crystal Clemente, who is a Turtleboy supporter as well as a Karen Reed supporter. She was out there on the, and she just recently died in a tragic car accident, leaving what, based on the pictures that I saw, a husband and a child behind. So we want to make things as comfortable for them as we possibly can as a community, because I mean, what good are we if we don't take care of each other here? We don't take care of our own. So I want to try to do something for Crystal Clemente's family as best as I can. With my platform. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do tomorrow, but I'm going to do the best I can. I have nothing actually planned for it, but and if you want to jump on, please, that'd be great. Anybody who wants to jump in and help out and talk about, anybody who knew her, feel free to jump on and talk about her, call in and talk about her. I'm just, again, I'm spitballing here. I'm thinking out loud. It's just totally conceptual. Before, like maybe an hour before I jumped on here is when I saw the GoFundMe was out there. So, if it's a verified, legit GoFundMe, then I'm happy to share it and throw a fundraiser for her and her loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Aiden had posted some pictures of her this morning. He ended up listing her Twitter page. I found out she was a follower of mine as well. And it was sad. What ended up happening, she was, just for people know, she was killed by a wrong way driver on Route 9 in Southborough. Tragic here, obviously. Route 9 can be, Route 9 can be a wild card of a place to drive where you just never know if it's going to be, safe at any point in time or not. But that's the picture of her on the right there with the glasses, right there in the hoodie here. This is, and she was a cancer survivor too, mentioned here. She survived and beat cancer and never stopped showing up at events outside the courthouses as one of the regulars at the overpass standouts. You see her with some supporters here as well. Then in the background, they're holding the Karen Reuters frame signs. Yeah, it's a terrible tragedy, but I think that's what we can do. You can do as well is help raise some money for her to cover funeral expenses. We saw what happened. James Vanderbeek just passed away a couple weeks ago from cancer, and what we learned was that his royalties from the show Dawson's Creek and his movie career were only so much. So Hollywood stars had actually pitched in to donate, raise money for him, and especially for people outside of Hollywood. Our finances are nowhere near Hollywood's finest people. So it's great if we can raise some money as well for someone that's a everyday common citizen. In terms of
right. I mean, this is somebody who sacrificed her time to go out to these standouts and spread awareness on something that we were all very passionate about. So I think that this community embracing me the way that it has, it's the least that I could do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do.
It's a great idea. Someone says here, Dina has something to auction. I think that would be amazing thing to do if she would want. That's great. Perfect. That'll be good. Dina's always Dina. Yeah, she was very instrumental in raising money for Karen in what I would call a creative way, like having that raffle for the signature thing. All of us signed that it was like a frame, and then that got raffled off, which was really cool. So that was something fantastic as well. And fundraising, yeah, exactly. So that's always good. And I think ultimately that's what it boils down to: people helping people. And this is a terrible tragedy, obviously. And it's even tough just to see someone that was a cancer survivor like that, where when you do survive, cancer's a very difficult thing to endure. What's fortunate about cancer is it's becoming less and less fatal due to early detection, which is leading to a lot more cancer survivors in this day and age. Which is great, but you see someone go through that, overcome that, and then lose their life. Obviously, losing their life, no matter what, is horribly tragic. But it just adds to me, the tragicness of this story was that she was a survivor and had good days ahead for her life, and then it, ended the way it did.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let me address this comment real quick. Nothing against you, Blue Jay, but I'm gonna have to. You're saying the thing is James Vanderbeek's wife had a $4 million place that she could sell. Most of us don't have those kind of assets. They have Hollywood millionaires to help every day. People need people like us. For sure. I do agree with you. But the thing is like, even still, why should the wife have to sacrifice her $4 million house that she, through talent and through, partnership with her, Hollywood movie star husband, whatever, why should she have to lose that due to a tragedy? Why not help her? Why not help her maintain what she, why not help her maintain and soften this blow for her as best as possible? Why should she have to, just because a tragedy happens, it should be a tragedy all around for everyone? No, obviously it's a tragedy all around for everyone in James Vanderbeek's circle. That's not what I mean, but I'm saying,
yeah,
why should she not? Why should it be so much more horrible for her? Why not just make it to where, as best as these Hollywood friends around her can, why not make it to where, as best as they possibly can in their power, make it just the grief that she has to deal with as best as they can, just the grief, and not the financial downfall that comes from it, and all the backlash that comes from that. But no, I got your point, Blue. I'm also I agree with you here in this situation. All she has is us too, and that's why I want to do the fundraiser as well.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to if we're going to look at, how important it is to raise money for Aiden, and how important it is to raise money for Karen, and this is somebody who's probably donated money herself, to the best of her abilities to these causes, then we should absolutely look out for, the people who, sacrifice what they sacrificed for this the very cause that we all came together for.
Right.
So I want to make that as no. I know you weren't saying that, Blue. I know you weren't saying that. I'm saying that to me, it's irrelevant how much someone has. That's all I'm saying is I don't think it's relevant how much someone has. Why not just try to make it as comfortable for them as we possibly can is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it sounds like she's saying just they have more assets than the everyday person. Okay, no, it's good. That's a good conversation to look into that. Vanderbeek for me. So I was I was a teen at the time. So when Dawson's Creek came out, like the movie Titanic, I was your typical teenage American boy that would just make fun of shows like that. And anytime classmates talked about that show, I just roll my eyes. But Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
Varsity Blues was my movie for Vanderbeek. That was the best. And it was so entertaining. It was a great, like we talked about sports movies earlier. That was a good one, man.
I have, one of my favorite football movies. I have a VHS player hooked up right here, over here. And I mean, I only have one VHS tape, and Varsity Blues is the one inside that VCR right now.
That's funny.
And I think it's from Blockbuster.
That's funny. You had it when they sold them off. Yeah, when the Blockbuster used to sell off the videos. Yeah.
Yeah, so Varsity Blues is a movie I've always liked, even though I was never a Dawson's Creek guy.
No, heck no, no, we're not watching that show ever. No, I don't. Yeah. I've never watched that show. Never gonna watch that show. Of course, I knew all the actors ended up becoming big stars. Obviously, one of the kids was the Mighty Ducks kid, and of course Katie Holmes. But I was even when I watched Varsity Blues, I'm like, I don't know if I can watch this movie with this guy from Dawson's Creek, but I watched that movie and I'm like, well, this Vanderbeek kid's a good actor. He was really good in that role. I enjoyed it. And Paul Walker, was the primary quarterback in that movie. They were both quarterbacks, and Billy Bob, and all three of them have tragically died since, which is absolutely crazy to think. Paul Walker, I was a big Fast and Furious fan up through the 7th movie. And then once the 8th movie came out,
I'm like, how ridiculous are they?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
I still love them. I'm like, how ridiculous can they make me? Like, I was like, when I started to get bored, and I was like, oh my God, how ridiculous are they going to make these? And then they did the skydiving with the cars out of the plane. Then I was like, okay, I'm hooked. Like, I want to see what they're going to do next. This is ridiculous and stupid. I need to see this. And now I root for these movies. Like I love Vin Diesel that he can keep this going the way that he is. It's great.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I like to see them kind of tone it down. With
he is milking the hell out of that franchise. Man. It's great.
So when the first movie came out, I was irate with him. They did not want to do a sequel, so they made the second one with Tyrese Gibson, which I liked it as like a popcorn B movie. Low grade.
Which one are you talking about?
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't want to do sequels. So I was like, you got to do a sequel. So then he ends up showing up at the end of the third one, Tokyo Drift, to race the kid from Friday Night Lights. And he's like, you ready, kid? And Lucas Black was the kid's name. I'm like, okay, good. He's back. And then finally the fourth one.
Friday Night Lights like 2 days ago again.
Oh, did you?
For the first time since it came out. The one with Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah, I just watched that movie. Like, it's so crazy that you brought that up because I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this movie since it came out. It's great. It was really good.
It really is a great movie. Fun fact about that movie: they didn't actually play Dallas Carter in the championship. It was actually in the semifinals.
Okay.
I went on the school's website one year and found that out. I was shocked by that. There was never any game at the Astrodome, but you know what? It was they were undefeated the next year, though. That really happened, but they took some creative liberty with that one. But that's honestly Friday Night Lights.
Do that, yeah. I just talked about that too on a Clubber Walk. I was talking about how they take liberties with the story.
Oh, yeah.
Once the movie studio buys the rights to your story, like I almost guarantee you that we will watch the big budget Turtleboy movie when it comes out and laugh hysterically through it. Now, we'll love it, I guarantee you, but there's going to be details that we're going to be like, that's not true. What? Where do they get that? What are you talking about?
Right.
That's just because that's what a writer is supposed to do. The studio is going to write something that they think is going to sell the movie more. You know, it's how it is.
Yeah, I enjoyed the Lifetime movie more than most people, just because I just look at it from like a not take it too seriously in terms of the fact that they're just making a elementary effort towards making the movie. When the Turtleboy actor showed up, I'm like, come on, guys, that doesn't look like him, doesn't sound like him. Like, you figure an actor like Katie Cassidy was fantastically cast. I thought that she could have played Karen Reed in any level of the movie, even if it was a more Oscar level production. I thought she could have pulled off the role, no problem. But when other characters rolled in, Kerry Roberts, for example, was probably the most wildly cast person in that movie. It was like, I'm like, wait, is that supposed to be Kerry Roberts? That color's wrong.
But what's so great is that it just gave us so much to laugh at. We had such a good time watching it. You know, like there was just so much. I mean, like one way or the other, I'm going to enjoy this stuff. Like there was a time where I was the kind of guy that would just get mad, like at inaccuracies, and then you just grow up and you understand how these things work, and then it's just like, okay, you know, like that creative writer could just be like, you know what, the real story and not changing a thing is the best way to do this. And that has happened. That does happen from time to time when you see a biopic. You know, because I mean, and true stories sell. You know, it's like a perfect example of that is the first Fargo movie, the original Fargo movie. Like there were multiple. I mean, there's the series and then there's the movie. But
the 90s,
but the original movie, and even they did this in the series too. But in the original movie, the very beginning of the movie, it's like everything about this story is absolutely true. This is an absolutely true story. Like they really emphasized on that in the way that they worded that at the beginning. I can't remember exactly how they worded it, but they're like, man, this is absolutely true. But it's 100% fiction. It's not even based on it. It's not even inspired by a true story, nothing, you know, but they knew that the viewer watching it would find the story way more interesting going, oh my God, I can't believe, I wonder how this person's doing now after all that. I wonder how this affected, you know, the sales of that car dealership after that, blah, blah, blah. These are the things that while you're watching it, you think about and you forget all about that you were thinking about when you were watching the movie, but it does make the movie more enjoyable, you know, because you're empathizing with people who you think are real, you know what I mean? So it sells the movie way better if it's based on a true story. And the Farrelly brother, or not the Farrelly, the Coen brothers, were brilliant in that aspect because they were like, oh, well, you know, this is such a crazy story. Let's just say it's a true story. And you know, just for artistic purposes, we could just lie, you know, just for artistic purposes, you know?
Right. That's right. William H. Macy was in that movie. Steve Buscemi was in that movie. That was a really good cast in that movie.
Oh yeah, that was the movie I think that made.
It's hard to believe that movie was made in 1996. That's.
Yeah, and I remember Gene Siskel. Like Siskel and Ebert were still a thing at the time, and I would always watch Siskel and Ebert late at night when it would come on every week. You know. Because I loved movies. I'd be like, let's see what they think. Am I going to pay the money to go watch this movie? Because I usually agreed with at least one of them, you know?
Yeah, right.
Wasn't always the same guy, but one way or the other. And I remember Gene Siskel going, Fargo is the best movie I've ever seen. Like for a critic to say that, like I was
That's
like,
huge.
What? Yeah, he was like, hands down, Fargo is the best movie I've ever seen, blah, blah, blah. Of course, Roger Ebert was like, okay, dude, until the next one, right? You know, but yeah, it was very, very, so that sold it to me. And then I went and rented it and watched it when it, you know, and I was like, oh my God, this is this is a really good movie.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a true story until one of my friends years later, like literally like a decade later, was like, no, man, it's not a true story. They just said that because they're going crazy. You know what I mean? I was like, holy shit. I was like, that's brilliant. That's genius.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's the 90s had so many innovative movies like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Independence Day really kind of brought back, for me, what I think was the big budget, 50s, 60s sci-fi movies that eventually kind of played into superhero movies going big budget again. You had Mission Impossible, which kind of quietly got huge, and Scream, which brought back horror movies again, slashers. It was 90s were a great time. Forrest Gump, obviously, was another great film. Braveheart, Saving Private Ryan, which I thought was one of the biggest Oscar snubs ever made. That was probably, to me, the best World War II movie ever made, other than Patton.
I think movies peaked in the 90s for sure.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, because now we've got, who knows, who knows what's going to happen with AI. I mean, it's just crazy. Everything is just crazy right now. And the standards for awards for these movies now are all politically based. There's some sort of political agenda behind the decisions of who they give the best award to. So, which is actually a blessing for me, because now it's like I am solely relying on my own taste now.
Yeah.
There's nothing to influence me on whether or not I like the movie. Right. There's like I can watch something that's up for, nominated for 10 Oscars, and I'll watch it and I'll be like, why? But
yeah.
So I don't even care about the Oscars or anything like that anymore. And there was a time where like the Oscars was magical. Everyone was watching the Oscars on, it was always on a Sunday when they did it. And, family got together and watched it, and it was like, oh my God. And then, movies that you never even heard of got nominated. You're like, I got to go out and watch that. Oh my God.
Right.
I didn't even know and that does happen. There's like, I watched a really cool on Netflix. There's a short film that was nominated for an Oscar this year. And it's like 15 minutes, and I was like, okay, let me check it out. It's on Netflix. And I was like, wow, okay, I get it. That's, this is really good. It's called The Singers. If you got 15 minutes, watch The Singers. Yeah. Watch The Singers on Netflix. Okay. It's just a beautiful little artistic piece. No real point behind it that I really got. No real message. Other than you just never know. You just never know,
Wow.
But it was just a cool little, like, I finished watching it going, okay, man, right on. That's fucking cool.
That's funny. Yeah. Oscar parties at 90s. The last time I really cared about the Oscars was when The Fighter came out. Yeah. The Fighter came out. That was a great one. Christian Bale won the Oscar, and Melissa Leo won an Oscar for best supporting actor and best supporting actress. Maybe she won best. No, she won best supporting actress, not best actress. But that was a great movie. It was like Rocky, but it was a whole different twist on it, where we went more for like a family dynamic.
Yeah.
And just seeing the way that whole family was acting and how they portrayed themselves, and Amy Adams and Mark Wahlberg were fantastic in that movie. And plus, being a Massachusetts guy, growing up, it was like every movie was in New York or California, and it was kind of like, Good Will Hunting came out. Like, everybody had to watch Good Will Hunting around here because it was a Boston movie. It was a big deal at the time. Mystic River, obviously, The Town being one of the best movies ever made here. But yeah, it's awesome to see some Boston-based movies. But yeah, love The Fighter. The Fighter is one of my favorites, though, I got to say, of all the Oscar winning.
Totally
nominated movies. Yeah.
I mean, Christian Bale was just amazing in that. Like, and they just captured everything so, like, if you've ever known a crackhead, that was so accurate. Like, that portrayal of a crackhead was the most accurate that I've ever seen, because you're just like, oh my God, this guy. Jesus.
When he gets out of prison, and there's that scene where he's walking down the street and they're trying to bring him back into that life again, and he refuses to do that. That was like, to me, like one of the most powerful scenes in the movie, because this guy's life was so destroyed by that, and then going into jail ended up being like the detox he needed physically and mentally in his life, did Dickie Eklund. And it was just like an incredible story of a guy recovering and exiting a life where they show him as this guy. And that's why, like even when Christian Bale made his Oscar speech, like he apologized to Mark Wahlberg, because it's a lot of times these more animated characters that went at the stoic characters. Wahlberg did a great job in the movie, but Christian Bale's story arc was unbelievable in that sense that he was, I remember that scene where they show him in jail and he's sitting on the steps and he's meditating. And then Back in the Saddle by Aerosmith starts playing. He's running around the prison. He's getting in shape again. Then when he comes back, everybody's like, oh man, he's going to wreck this whole thing. And he kind of has to fight his way back in to be the manager. And then that to me was like, that was just an amazing real life story that was captured in an actual movie that I thought was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I think that movie is great. Sorry for this.
It's okay.
I'm on my bed and Clubber just keeps adjusting and moving around. He's on the other side of the computer. Yeah.
Goes in chaos.
But no. I totally agree with you about the fighter. Yeah, and it also it was funny because like the way that they portrayed like all of those sisters, and being so Boston, being so Massachusetts, that group of sisters, and being so territorial and protective, and that was like, and then when I visited Massachusetts, I got a little taste of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
right.
Meeting a lot of the supporters, there was a lot of that attitude of like, okay, if you're with us, you're with us. That's it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's no, that's it. You're solidified once you're accepted, but it takes a lot to be accepted by a true masshole. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's a different, like I grew up in Massachusetts, so I never knew like how distinct we were. I just never really thought much of it. But then, as I got older, I'm like, well, okay, we are a lot more distinct than the rest of the country, from Boston to Western Massachusetts. But yeah, it's a whole different way up here. But I like it. I like it here, and we got the great sports teams, which is good, and a lot of good movies made, and a lot of good history. Yeah, we're probably the best combination of the 4 seasons you'll ever find. Hot as hell during the summer. The fall up here is incredible, and then winter is your typical grueling winter that you'll find anywhere in the country, short of Canada.
Yeah, no, I love everything about Massachusetts except for the stuff that you guys hate about it.
Okay.
I love it for the same reasons you guys do, and I hate it for the same reasons you do. And so, but the love is still not enough for me to move there. It's too expensive.
Well, that's the biggest thing, is the expenses up here. We're our prices up here are about as expensive as outside of New York and California. Probably about as Clubber, good old Clubber there. Probably about as expensive as you're going to find to live. So it's like for someone like yourself in Tennessee that's used to living life a certain way, and the weather's a certain way, it can be tough to transition up the Mass for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the weather here is very. It can't make up its mind. Right now it's hot, it's like we had to count on a rainstorm to bring in a cold front, and so and that's going to happen for the next few days, and then it's going to get cold again. So who knows, but I have to, before I walk Clubber, I have to go, all right, do I need a hoodie? I can't count on my weather app. That's not going to do it. I have to actually go outside, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, I need a hoodie, or I don't, Yeah, weather is very moody, Chastity. Most definitely. Definitely.
I know the Titans are working on that new stadium right now, which is going to be probably going to be at some point a Super Bowl drawer in the future. So that will be interesting for that state.
Yeah. Clubber, are you really, bro?
Clubber making an appearance here on MazzaMedia for the first time, ladies and gentlemen. Clubber, welcome.
Yeah. May Lynn's like, I see Clubber. Yeah, who doesn't, dude? He's like sticking his face right in the camera, like, dude, relax. We're gonna go in just a second, okay, buddy?
Yeah,
relax. Go lay down. Go lay down with your brother. Go. Yeah, Drago's over there just laying down, chilling on the other side there.
Wow.
But when we first started, he was behind this curtain and he was like scratching me from behind the curtain. Like, I was like, stop.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's funny.
What's up, Ray from Dallas? Yeah, I heard Ray from Dallas got his Twitter suspended, I think.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Goodness.
Jesus.
A lot of Clubber love here. I like how you name all your dogs after Rocky characters. That's the best part.
Right.
It's like every character, every movie character gets your animals draw a name from them. So that's fun.
Yeah. I mean, I love Rocky, man. Yeah. Do we want to do the Rocky 5 conversation now, or do you want to do that?
We got time for it. I got the time right now, so I got to leave probably by 4:30. It's 3:46 right now. So, but yeah, I can talk about that with you. So, Rocky 5 is, of all the Rocky movies and all the Creed movies, the only one that kind of is not what I would say great. Like, I love 1 through 4, all different movies, all great in their own way. Rocky 6, love the comeback story. The Creed movies, especially the first 2, love them. The third one's pretty solid as well.
So you're saying you like Rocky 6 better than Rocky 5?
Yeah, no, Rocky 6, Rocky Balboa, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I love them all for their own reasons, but I'll let you explain to everybody here. So Mazza, before I do, Mazza fucking I think I was even live when you did it and you didn't know I was live or something.
Oh, really?
But,
yeah. That's funny.
I can't remember, but you sent me Mazza sends me a voice message on my phone, like a voice text. And it's like 5 minutes long, and he basically rewrote Rocky 5. Like, he's like, I figured out what was wrong with Rocky 5, and let me explain to you how I would have done it. And then he goes into this whole thing, and I'm listening to it, and I'm just like, okay, I have thoughts on that. But God, I don't want to sit there in a voice text, and that would take forever. We're gonna be doing this all night.
Right.
So let's do it now.
Yeah, so Rocky 5, I've always argued, and I know you were a big Rocky fan, so I'm like, I've had these conversations with my buddies over the years. I'm like, I'm going to run this by Glare and see what he's got to say about Rocky 5. So the movie, I've always said, is salvageable. It can work. It was just done wrong. Like, Tommy Gunn was a great villain. Like, I loved his story. He was like this no kid that nobody knew about that came into the limelight, got tutored by Rocky, ends up becoming world champion, turns villain, fights Rocky at the end. Storyline there, absolutely perfect. Where they went wrong is, like, when we see Rocky in the first Creed movie being a trainer, it's fine. It's like, it's good. It's like, okay, I can accept Rocky in the year 2015 or 16, whatever it is, training an up-and-coming kid. But in 1990, Stallone, we still expect him at that point being an action star. With Cliffhanger and Demolition Man still to come, you still expect him to be in that competitive action movie role. But the problem I had was they drew back on the fiction and tried to make the movie more realistic again by saying, well, if he did fight Ivan Drago, he would get, like, probably permanent brain damage that would keep him from ever competing in the ring again. And that was the first thing I thought where they went wrong. I'll let you comment on that.
Okay, say that one last part again. What you thought went wrong
was that they had a storyline where he had permanent brain damage that would prohibit him from competing in the ring again.
Yeah, I didn't like that either, because I think that what kept happening was I try to think of what's going on in Sylvester Stallone's brain,
right?
And I think that he just is. I think that was what was factoring into that was him going, okay, I can't keep making these Rocky movies forever. Yeah. This one's going to be the last one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every single one that he does he thinks is going to be the last one. Rocky 4 was going to be the last one. Why kill Apollo? if it's not going
Right.
to be the last one? Rocky 3, you know,
Right.
why kill Mickey if it's not going to be the last one? You know what I mean? He so each time he does it, he thinks he's wrapping up the whole franchise, you know,
Right.
but then he gets a new idea and then he's like, well, okay. Or he needs more money. Who knows? Whatever. But
Right.
he's like, I could bring back the character. So I'm thinking of it more in terms of like, he's trying to figure out a way to bring back the character, but then go, okay, this is the last time I'm doing that though.
Yeah. Right.
So I think that was the whole brain damage thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought it was actually a really good idea. I liked it because it really, like, he was on top of the world, and then you're just like, oh my God, you know, he's got this brain damage.
Right.
And I remember you mentioning also that you had an issue with them going broke.
Yes, I did. Yep.
Explain that.
Sure. I just want to pivot off one more point about the brain thing before we transition. So that point that I made about that too is that they could have still done the head injury. I wouldn't have gone to the extreme that they did to make it a permanent brain damage that would prohibit him. I would have taken it down to he suffered a severe concussion that is made retiring of his best interest. So what that does is it leaves the door open where it's basically, okay, he can't box anymore out of a concern for his brain, brain and all that, but he's got to retire still. So that leads to that storyline. So the next piece, which is what you said, them going broke, I thought the first two movies really knocked it out of the park with telling tragic stories, such as Rocky being a, low-grade, low-ranking fighter, can only afford so much. Underdog story, comes from small means. That was kind of the heart of the first one. The second one kind of drew into the sadness with Adrian going into a coma because of Rocky, what happened in the pet store there. So then he kind of stopped training for a while. That was kind of like their drama for the movie. So they always try to have something that is kind of sad and sorrowful in those first two movies. Now, the third and fourth movie go in totally different directions. These are basically all-out action movies, basically all-out fight movies. There's really no sadness other than Rocky's upset he lost. He's got to fight to get, actually Mickey dies. I'm sorry, Mickey died in the third one. I'm sorry about that. Mickey dies in the third one, so that was it. So they had Mickey dying in the third one, Apollo dying in the fourth one. So every movie, I'm wrong about that. Every one of those movies essentially had some kind of like down on their luck, sad, sorrowful moment. The fifth one I felt didn't really need that because I didn't think, because you want to see the character have tragedies that they can overcome, but you don't want to see them absolutely fall from grace. And yeah. I think that's what happened with the fifth one was, they lost all their money. Now they got to move back in the old neighborhood. It's like they're trying to get back to the original, where I don't think they needed to go to that extreme.
I like that, though.
You like that? Okay. Right. I disagree. I disagree.
I get it. I mean, sure. This is all boils down to a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
I there's a lot of people that agree with you too, by the way.
Yeah. Right.
But I like that. I like that. That it was more about the kid, and how much of a shock it was for the kid and what he was dealing with. I think that was more of Stallone's focus when he was writing it. My issue with Rocky 5, honestly, I wouldn't change anything about the story at all.
Okay.
My issue was the directing. I think that they, just to revisit the beginnings out of just in the interest of revisiting beginnings, they brought back John G. Avildsen as the director, where Sylvester Stallone directed all the other ones, right? Except for the first one. John G. Avildsen directed the first one, and then the next one was Sylvester Stallone, and so on and so forth. But then the fifth one, they're like, okay, well, we're going back to our roots. Let's bring back John G. Avildsen, but he's kind of washed up. You know what I mean? As a director, like one part of Rocky 5 that really irks me, and I mean, just it's such a stupid nitpicking thing, but when Tommy knocks him down and he thinks he wins, and he's like, yeah, I told you I'm the man, blah blah blah. And then Rocky comes up. Like, there's this shot where you see the train going by, and
Oh my God.
and he's dubbed in to raising up. His face is dubbed into that shot. Like, I'm like, what is that? Like, that looks terrible. Like, I was, and it's such a nitpicky thing, but I was like, it annoys me every time I watch that movie. I'm just like, oh God, why did you put that in there?
Hated that part. Hated that. It looked like it was in a Lipton iced tea commercial or something like that. Like, back. It's like, come on, really? I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I knew exactly what you were talking about. I'm like, no, man.
I loved Rocky. I loved that he got Tommy Morrison to play Tommy Gunn, because Tommy Morrison was historically, the villain fighter, in the Rocky movies ends up getting a career. You look at Mr. T ends up with this great career, and then Dolph Lundgren ends up with this great career, plays He-Man, even though that movie was garbage, but he still ended up with
Universal
a career
Soldier.
after that. Yeah, Universal Soldier. I mean, he didn't make any good movies, but they were fun to watch. Dolph Lundgren, it's not his fault. What was it? What was the one with Brandon Lee? I remember I was really excited when that came out. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
It was terrible. I remember being a kid when that came out. I was so excited about it. What is it? Rapid Fire, I think it was called.
That's it. No, it is it. Rapid Fire. That was it. Yep. The late Brandon Lee.
God, yeah.
Carl Weathers was a Predator,
Yeah, I mean,
Jackson.
Action Jackson, dude. I don't care what anybody says. Action Jackson was awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. But like, yeah, it made me mad that he keeps killing people, which I'm just like, dude. But I'm assuming that the reason why he kills off these characters, at least I did assume, was because they just didn't want to do the movies anymore. The actors didn't, But I don't think that was the case with Carl Weathers. I don't
think so either.
No, and I don't think, but I think that might have been the case with Talia Shire, for the sixth one.
Yeah.
I mean, because when the sixth one was coming out, I was like, yes, but I also understood why everyone else was going, really, another one, like you're not done yet, like that's it, like, and even Paulie making the comment in that movie, like, you haven't peaked yet, like, what are you doing, but I liked because the thing is what I loved about Rocky 5 was it broke the formula of the other movies. The other movies was the basic formula was, okay, Rocky's doing all right. And so, he's going to have this tough opponent that he loses against and then he comes back, or this opponent is so impossible to beat and then he trains real hard and then he comes and he beats him. I love that Rocky didn't have to do any training at all whatsoever. Like, it just ended up being a street fight, which had not been done yet. I love that it was a street fight. I love that he was just like, you know what, dude? Like I don't need to train to whoop your ass. I trained you, bro. Like, you're gonna smack Paulie. Yeah. Like in Paulie's bar, in our town. Like, what? Like, hold on, you need to get checked. Let me show you exactly how nothing you are. Yes, you are a paper champion. And even though, and that's what was cool about it. What I loved was he defended this guy. Everyone was telling Rocky, like, yo, dump this guy. He sucks. He's an ingrate. He sucks. Like, get rid of this Tommy guy. He doesn't appreciate anything. Even Paulie is telling him, like, dude, hey, Rocco, your ship sunk, Rocco, right? So, like, he's got everyone telling him this. He's like, nah, he's a good kid, man, And there's this real psychological thing where he's just like, I still have something to give to the sport of boxing. I could still do something. I'm not, and it wasn't about the money. He didn't care about the money. He was fine with being broke it was more important to him to teach his kid that there are more important things in life than material possessions and money, and none of it matters.
Yeah.
You know, we still have each other, and this is what matters. This is happiness. And this is a guy who's never going to understand that. Screw that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I forgot about that, and I wasn't paying attention to you and the troubles you were going through with school and everything, and I lost sight of stuff, you know. So when you I look at it in terms of a story about Rocky and his son, you know, rather than Rocky as a fighter, you know what I mean? If you're looking at it in terms of Rocky as a fighter, which is a very fair way to do it since it's a Rocky movie, you know what I mean? If you're looking in terms, I can see how you could be disappointed with Rocky 5, but
sure.
I, you know, and honestly, it took me a couple of times. I wanted to like Rocky, so a lot of what you're saying here, could and a lot of me and my opinions that are based out. It's fair to say that it is a product of me for years watching Rocky 5 and loving the franchise so much that I wanted to like Rocky 5. Like, I would watch the movie over and over again, wanting to like it, finding reasons to like it. But it's been so long that this is the conclusion that I've come to. So, I actually, as far as story goes, I think Rocky 5 is one of the best ones. I just hate the way that it was directed, mostly.
Yeah. Wow.
I thought the dialogue could have been better. There were, you know, I think that the story,
you're losing your son, Rocky. Something's happening to your son. The way she starts yelling.
Right. And I got sick of that too. Like, I will say I'm sick of the because I'm just like, Adrian is such a drag, dude.
Oh my God. That's what I mean.
Guy's the underdog. He needs you there to support him, dude, and lift him up. You think you just yelled in his face and said he can't win. Yeah. And this guy will do anything to make sure that you have food in your belly. What are you doing, lady? What is wrong with you?
Right. Oh, it was just, that was some of the acting was horrible, but like I said, I can still get that element of the Rocky son story. My difference in writing it, if I had to rewrite it, would be, he doesn't lose his finances. Basically, what happens at home is he just figures this kid, his son of his, has not come up the same way he has. Where Rocky came from humble beginnings, his son has luxury, and as a way of showing his son on the weekends what life is like where he grew up, he starts to go back to his old neighborhood and his old gym. There, Tommy Gunn finds him, and he trains up his son. Then he loses focus on his son and focuses on Tommy, which still keeps that storyline with the kid feuding. And that, kid being upset with his dad. So that whole story dynamic stays in there. It just plays out a whole different way. And then with Rocky never losing his finances, which is fine. He can just still I'd still have him train in the old gym. But I would do an angle where now that he doesn't have that head injury and Tommy Gunn's become champion, that leads to a title fight after a bar fight happens, just as it had in the movie. And it does get into a fight, but does not go to the level it does that you actually see in the actual Rocky 5. It gets broken up at some point. Rocky agrees to fight him in the ring, and then they fight in the ring for the title at the end of the movie. Rocky wins back the title, and that's how the 5-movie series ends, with Rocky champion at the end again. See,
but to me, that's just the same as the other movies.
We do it differently. I know. We do it differently, though, because this time Rocky, so the story arc is Rocky is a rival of Apollo, and Rocky and Apollo become friends, and then Apollo mentors Rocky, right? So it starts from rivals to allies. Then Tommy Gunn starts as ally and becomes rival. And so what you do is you change up the whole script when it comes to these movies. This time, Rocky's not the slow starter in the fights. He comes out on fire. But then he starts to realize this Tommy Gunn kid won't quit. He won't go down. So you change the whole fight up to the point where it just doesn't have the same temperature of a normal Rocky movie. And that's how you get your difference in story. It's just by changing the whole temperature of the fight. Yeah.
Yeah, true. See, I'm looking at it in terms of...
Sorry, one quick thing, which is actually what happened in their street fight. Rocky won the first round on the street fight, lost the second one, then beat him in one more round. So that dynamic did technically play out. in that Rocky Five movie.
And
Yeah.
the rules of a boxing fight were out the window. There's no rounds. It's just like, hey, one more round, Tommy, let's go. Right. But the
Ray's on your side. You're good with Ray.
Yeah. And Ray knows his stuff, man. He comes from a boxing background too.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at if we're analyzing what somebody is to blame for this problem, right? And that would be Sylvester Stallone. So if we're looking at the making of Rocky V as a crime, the perpetrator of that crime would be Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
Right. Now, here is me trying to understand the criminal a little bit better. I think what was going on was he was setting up a situation to keep the franchise going, where he didn't have to, because obviously he's going to age out as a boxer. He can't keep boxing forever. He's going to retire at some point. So I think what was set here, what the mindset for Stallone was I'm bringing my son into the business, right? I'm bringing my son Sage into the Rocky business. And, while he's young, I could set up a whole nest egg for this kid, So maybe his kid told him, hey, I want to act. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so Stallone says, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. We'll introduce you as a character. You could play, Rocky's son. And then you take an interest in boxing. And that's what's happening. He's getting kicked. He's getting his ass kicked at school, every day. And he learns how to fight so he can whip the kids' asses who are picking on him in school. But you see him training in a boxing gym. Right. And I think this is Rocky first learning how to become a trainer to set up for future movies where he's training his son to fight and become the next Rocky and take that mantle. That's what I think was on Sylvester Stallone's mind when writing Rocky V. He's new to being a trainer, and Sage is learning, Robert is learning how to fight. Problem is, Sage Stallone dies after the movie.
Yeah.
The whole thing goes out the window. The whole plan is gone, done. But if you think of it in those terms, I feel like Rocky V makes more sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, he's still alive through 2012, though.
Do what now?
Sage Stallone was alive through 2012. He passed in 2012.
Right. But at the same time, he was not doing what, you know what I mean? He's a kid, so you could only hope that the kid is going to stay the course and do what he's supposed to do. But Sage Stallone, from what I understand, was living a lifestyle that was not
counterproductive.
I don't remember exactly what he died from. I don't want to spread false information because I don't remember what it was that he died from. But I'm wondering if his lifestyle had something to do with why he died, and that lifestyle would not be indicative to making Rocky movies, because you look at the abuse that Sylvester Stallone put his body through to make these movies. Like when he was doing Rocky 3, remember Rocky 1 and 2, he was kind of baby fatty, and then Rocky 3, he was like, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give Rocky the best physique he's ever had. I'm gonna make him look better than he ever has. And then what he talked about was a massive calorie deficit. He was on Johnny Carson promoting the movie, and I remember he was like, he's like, I think I ate. He's like, you just don't eat basically, and you work out all the time, and you just basically don't eat. He's like, you need protein. And I think I read somewhere later what he did was he was eating, I think, a can of tuna a day or something like that for the protein. But there's still calories in that. So he had to burn all the calories so that he would burn the fat and just be pure muscle. Now I'm sure there were, supplements involved. All the movie stars do it. Because I mean, you look at like Christian Bale, right?
Yeah.
Christian Bale is known for losing weight for roles like in a very insane fashion. Yeah, okay. Clubber and Drago are going at it right now, so
Yeah,
that's why. Okay. Yeah, Drago, don't take that shit, man. Whoop his ass. So he does, man. He stands up to him, man. Like they play and he doesn't back down. It's funny. And Drago's like this in comparison to, Clubber's huge.
Yeah.
But you look at Christian Bale, right? Christian Bale filmed The Machinist.
Yep.
Now you remember he had to lose all that weight for The Machinist, right? Yeah. And again, they were like, "How did you lose all that weight?" I just stopped eating. But then when he's done filming The Machinist, he gets Batman Begins, right? And Batman Begins, he's huge. Like, he's huge. He looks like Rocky in Rocky 1. You know what I mean? Like, he's massive. Well, more like Rocky 2. But he's massive. And he gained that weight in 3 months. I'm telling you, that's impossible. That can't be done. You cannot gain that much muscle in 3 months. I don't care if you're living in a gym, dude. And I don't care if you're eating everything in sight. You are not gaining that kind of weight in 3 months without hormones. It's just not going to happen. But I remember at the time thinking, oh, well, yeah, look at him, dude. He's jacked. And he's like, there's no way in 3 months that you gain that kind of weight without some help.
No. That's just
right. Like I when I'm on, I'm living in the gym, and like my physique does not really change. Like you can kind of tell, you like, oh, you've been working out, okay, but no way. Yeah, and I've been active in the gym for years. My biceps not getting any bigger than this, bro. It's just not. It's not happening.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I know. That's the way it is. These Hollywood guys back then, they're all roided up. Wrestlers used to be roided up back in the 80s and 90s. And, these guys had physiques that were just impossible, and I'd hit the weights constantly. I still do hit the weights, but it's like I never got to that level in terms of just being like, shredded out of my mind and blasted out of my mind. You can't achieve that look unless you're using roids. I mean, you can get toned, you can get fit, but you're not going to get like blasted like Stallone looked in Rocky 4.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. Like now, the kind of muscle mass that Rocky had, the kind of muscle mass that Sylvester Stallone had, it makes sense that he built a lot more muscle mass and then slimmed down, because that's technically what you're supposed to do for a good-looking muscular physique. Is you're supposed to bulk up and then slim down. So you eat everything in sight. You work out like crazy. You just break down. You destroy your muscles so that they can rebuild bigger and stronger. And you just engage in as much protein intake as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And then so he's Sylvester Stallone going from Rocky 2 to Rambo and Rocky 3, Rambo 2 and Rocky 3.
Sure.
You're looking at, you're looking at, well, I think he did First Blood. Yeah. First Blood was just before Rocky 3.
He made First Blood and Rocky 3 back to back, and then Rambo 2 and Rocky 4 back to back. I don't know what the order was, but both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. I don't know the order, but those were back. That was the order of back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a smart decision for him, because he do all his training for both movies, so he'd just be in peak condition all at once. So just your camera's shifting there, Glenn.
Yeah. I gotta get my leg comfortable here. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. But it just might make sense to get in absolute peak condition, then do his two most demanding movies, back to back. So it was a great strategy overall from a movie standpoint. So Frank Stallone had warned him. Speaking of John Rambo's in the chat as we speak, his brother Frank Stallone had actually warned him during Rambo 2, which is this very image that John Rambo in the chat has as his image. His brother said to him, he goes, "Man, you can't lose too much more body fat because you're going to end up dropping dead and they're going to have to hospitalize you."
Right.
He was so cut. It was unbelievable,
Yeah.
Unreal.
It's so crazy. Like to get down to like even 8% body fat is insane. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an overweight guy, but I got a little bit of a belly. I'm 50, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm still at like, you know, I think 29% body fat the last time I checked. You know, that's but I'm not an overweight guy, you know. So it's not easy to get down to that very low percentage of body fat at all, especially the older you get, because you're burning, your metabolism is not as fast. You're not burning fat as fast. And in order to burn fat, you know, you have to consistently work out. You have to do a lot of cardio. You have to sweat a lot. You have to, you know, and you have to watch what you eat. Me, dude, I don't know, man, with, you know, with my gummies, next thing I know, out of nowhere, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, you know, I'm going to get a lot of protein or whatever, and I'll eat some steak and some rice. And then I'm like, well, I really want 1,000 cookies. Or I'm just going to eat a whole cheesecake. I'm going to have a cheesecake. I'll just eat a cheesecake.
I put on weight like crazy, man. It's like as soon as I started eating, I had a bad diet. I've been on like on the 5th day of my diet since, which is the first time I've really gotten that diet again since the holidays. And it's like, man, I put on so much extra weight, like 7 to 8 pounds at least.
Yeah, I mean, crazy. And I was just fighting. Like I didn't even get to the gym since I got back from Boston this last time. The first time I went back to the gym was yesterday, or the day before. But I had to rest because, like, dude, I'm so sore because it was like 2 weeks, almost 3. So I was just so sore. But already my metabolism is coming back because it wasn't that long. So I'm hungry now all the time. Like, but I'm now, my plan right now is I'm gonna just eat a lot and put on some weight, and then I'm gonna cut it.
Drive it down, and
then I'm gonna cut it, and that means just eating just chicken.
Right.
Baked chicken breast all the time. You know?
I do a lot of salad, man. That's my key, is salad. Just load it up with you know, good vegetables and all that stuff. That's what I do when I go on diet. Because when I don't eat well, I eat a lot of food. So when I eat bad, I tend to eat a lot, and I go right for it. And it's just like I get, when I break that habit, it's like I eat a lot of food, but now it's a lot of good food. It's healthy food, so that's important for me.
Yeah, I mean, right. I always feel better when I eat healthy. I always feel like it must feel like you just paid for sex from a prostitute or something. Just like a low. When I eat McDonald's, I'm just like, why did I just do that to myself? It was so good, but I'm better than this. What are you doing? You know, that's how I feel when I eat. That I love McDonald's so much, dude. Like I eat it so often. A Big Mac has just always been my shit, dude. I always get it with the extra beef patty too.
You got to do that.
It's a Big Mac's just not big enough.
No, it's not. Like that's the problem I have with it. Like the quarter pounders, you know, that's my kind of
double quarter pounder.
Yeah. Okay.
Before you could even order it, because now you can now you have the option to order you want an extra 1/3 a pound beef patty or whatever, right? And that's great. But I remember even as a teenager, you know, especially my metabolism was racing all the time.
Same here. Yeah.
You know? I didn't work out at all, and I was shredded, you know? But I remember I'd go to McDonald's and it got to a point where I'd have to ask for the manager. I'd be like, I'd walk right in, I'd get to the counter and be like, can I speak with your manager, please? What's the problem? No, nothing's wrong. Just need to speak with your manager because I can only count on the manager to get it done right, which is the simplest thing. Which was at a time where if you walked into McDonald's and said, hey, I need this, but can you do it like this? And then they go, we can't do that. And then you're like,
right.
Can I do it? Can I borrow do I have to borrow your hat? I'll just go back there and do it. You know, what I'm asking you to do is and it was very simple. I would go, okay,
yeah,
a Big Mac for me is not big enough. Can you give me a double quarter pounder and make it like you would a Big Mac with the piece of bread in the middle and everything? And the guy at the counter was like, what? Just bring me your manager. Bring me your manager. Let me tell them what I want. And it's that simple. Like, give me a quarter pounder, double quarter pounder, ring it up as a double quarter pounder. Charge me for the sauce, charge me for the lettuce, charge me for the pickles. Make it exactly like you would a Big Mac, just with double quarter pounder patties. Yeah. This was too much for the dude at the counter or the girl at the counter to compute. So I would always just circumvent that whole process and ask immediately for the manager.
Yeah, that's
and
funny.
They'd be like, yeah, sure. Yeah, here we go. Okay, boom, that's it. And then they will go to the back and go, hey, this is how they want this. Just make it like a Big Mac. Use these patties. That's it. Yeah. Simple. But they couldn't do it.
Computed. Too much over their heads. Yeah, I used to take McChickens, and I would just cut down the bread. I'd order 4 McChickens, pull the patties out of 2 of them, double stack the other ones. Now I don't have to do that anymore because I don't go to McDonald's, but even if I did, I could just add the extra patty. So I would but back in the day, I'd have to get 4 of them.
Yeah.
Just double stack them and toss away 2 of the breads, and just save myself some carbs.
There you go. And that's the easy way to do it too. I would order what I like to call a McGangbang. You may have heard of this. A McGangbang is when you order. You remember when they were having like the 99-cent McChickens and the 99-cent McDoubles? Okay. Yeah. The McGangbang is when you order a double cheeseburger and a McChicken, and then you just throw away the bread in the McChicken and put the McChicken in the McDouble, and you've got yourself a 3-layer, goodness of McDonald's right there.
I heard about the Air. Was it the McLand Air and C, which is the burger, the chicken, and the fillet of fish all combined? That's insane to do. I don't know who would do that in their right mind.
That's gross. But chicken and beef, fine. The McChicken with the McDouble, super good.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not throwing fish in there. I'm good on the fish.
No, not at all. Yeah, Clever's hearing all this talk about burger, and he's like, "You got a burger for me, man?"
No, Clover's gonna have to go out, so I'm gonna have to jump off. But he's letting me know. But he's got to go out. But it's good to see you and talk to you, man. Always.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Take care of yourself, and I appreciate you coming on. And we'll be in touch.
Yeah, I'll be in touch with you if you want to jump on tomorrow. I'd love to have you. And if whatever and what you got going on, first Sunday of March, I think it is. Yeah. Right, March 4th.
I'm on tomorrow at 4:00 with Common Sense Investigator. She's doing a Kelsey Fitz Simmons fundraiser 4 p.m.
I'll be in chat for that for sure. Okay, I'll definitely be in chat for that.
Nurse Kim Broken Baker are going to be there too, which is going to be awesome. So it's going to be a good crew of people.
Right on. Yeah. No, I'm excited for it. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for having me, dude. I love talking to you, man. We always
got it, man. Anytime. Have a great afternoon. Take care of yourself. Later, Glare. All right, the Glare,
ladies
guys and gentlemen. All right, he's going to drop off. All right, let's talk about some other information we needed to discuss today, which is Karen Reed news. So we're going to talk about that next. All right, here we go. So this, and we're going to talk about some Karen news and some Kelsey news. All right, so here we go. This is, let me make sure I get the right video. This is the video by Grant Smith Ellis of Karen exiting court yesterday. Stand by. All right, this is Karen and her defense team exiting court yesterday. Excuse me, was it yesterday? Am I already forgetting what day it was? Thursday. Eerie to see Karen back in this courthouse again, considering I always thought she'd never have to go back to this place again.
Okay. Let's try. All right. So
obviously, no results today.
What happened there? What are you trying to do?
You see Janet and Bill there.
Well, I think we put forth everything that we could. We made our argument in court. I believe Miss Reed's been entitled to her cell phones. So the prosecution filed a last-minute motion to stay Judge Krupp's decision to deny the search warrant. They filed that yesterday. It's been 2 years. So we're hoping that Judge Tillman carefully considers our arguments and our filings and orders the phones to be returned immediately.
Why do you think the DA's office still wants the
phones to
phone?
be returned, though, right?
They want to get her for something. They've already failed once in front of a grand jury. They presented evidence trying to say that she conspired to intimidate witnesses. They failed. They couldn't even, this wasn't even a ham sandwich. They couldn't even indict her. So now they're trying to do what they can to get her on something else. So we'll see what happens. I expect that Judge Doolin should rule in our favor, and hopefully Miss Reed can move on with her life now.
Then we couldn't hear Attorney Diller. What did?
Brad, why didn't Judge Krupp order the phone to be removed? I'd like to be back again.
The O'Keefe family. The O'Keefe family was only heard de bene. Did that interest you?
All the way around.
Karen, any feelings the fact that they want to hold on to these cell phones, indict you on something?
I'll say that
It's weird that Christina Rex is holding.
Attorney Diller.
Indict you on something?
I'll say that
Christina Rex still works for WBZ, right? Yeah, she's holding a WBZ microphone and a Channel 5 microphone.
Hold on to these cell phones, indict you on something?
I'll say
Hang
that
it over your head?
Attorney Diller had nothing to do with this hearing. So whatever he wants to say, he can say. But this is between the Commonwealth and Miss Reed.
But why didn't Judge Krupp order the return of the phone? That's still pending, right?
Yeah, let's see what Judge Doolin says.
Turn.
Walk it backwards is easy. We'll go faster.
We're experts at this. What are you talking about?
You're the street. All right, thank you.
It's just surreal seeing Karen back here. I just can't get over it. It's like seeing her back at this location again is like I just never thought she'd ever have to go back. Christina was helping out WCVB5 by holding their mic also. Yeah. I wonder if she had to get special permission. I don't know what the protocol is with that. I've never seen that done before, but that's interesting to me. Where is my other view here? Here. There we go. Yeah, it's just interesting to see. This video is by Grant Smith Ellis, of course, as you see the watermark there. But yeah, this is just an endless thing of just nonsense. Like, give her back her phones for the love of God.
And our filings and orders the phones to be returned immediately.
Why do you think the DA's office still wants the
phones to
phone?
be returned, though, right?
They want to get her for something. They've already failed.
Well, that's the problem I have too, is that they always want to get her for something, and what that is that's backwards investigating. You can't. You're trying to. Well, we don't know. We don't. It's like if we say, if you have a warrant, you're trying to get a warrant, but you don't have justifiable cause to go in somebody's house or search a certain location. You're going to need a warrant, right? But if you don't have any level of reason to actually get a warrant, then what's the point in saying, well, we want to hold the phones. We're not sure what we need. And they've had these phones for how long? Years and years. And they're just sitting there saying, oh, we still need to get information. We still need to get, there might be something on it. There might be some kind of thing that proves that Karen was trying to have witnesses intimidated. It's like this, all this should be thrown out. They're trying to connect it to Aiden's case, but all this should be thrown out. This has just been a useless, elongated witch hunt. Karen Reed has been acquitted, and the fact that they're still trying to get charges on her just shows you how ridiculous this thing has been from the word go. And the word go began just over 4 years ago now. But that's what makes me absolutely sick, is that this continues to go on. This witch hunt continues, and they just won't stop. They're like, oh, it's Karen. It's insane. It's like the movie Fire in the Sky. If anybody's ever seen the movie Fire in the Sky, it's about this guy, Travis Walton, that was allegedly abducted by aliens. And while he was abducted, a local sheriff or whatever was trying to get his guys that were fellow tree chainsawers arrested for his murder. And they had to take lie detectors to say, no, we didn't kill him. No, we didn't kill him. And then when Travis Walton came back because he was released by the aliens and he was back to life, one of his buddies joked, yeah, the sheriff probably still thinks we killed you, even though he's still alive. It's just like, it just shows you the level of ridiculousness in this investigation. That's not out of the realm of realistic reality. Lozzie C. That's not out of the realm of being realistic at all. Quite honestly, that's not unrealistic that could have happened. Who knows? Who knows what they've done, where they are. Brian Walsh was acquitted. He walked out the door with his phones, basically. She should have been handed those phones immediately as well. Yeah, right, sure. I mean, they're just finding angles and reasons to keep this thing going.
What happens, eh? What are you trying to do?
Well, I think we put forth everything that we could. We made our argument in court.
And that's the problem. They have to keep making arguments in court, which I'm getting tired of seeing them have to do. We're all Karen Read supporters, of course, but at the same time, we don't want to have to see her continuously go through this either. And that's the ridiculous. I was laughing at the comment, Grant. Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. These charges just need all to be dropped. It's just ridiculous.
I believe Ms. Reed's been entitled to her cell phones. So the prosecution filed a last-minute motion to stay Judge Krupp's decision to deny the search warrant. They filed that.
I'm going to repeat this one part.
So the prosecution filed a last-minute motion to stay Judge Krupp's decision to deny the search warrant. They filed that yesterday. It's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years.
So we're hoping that Judge Tulin carefully considers our arguments and our filing.
And that's the problem that I have that concerns me, though, is that it's always left up to a judge to make a determination. And then my biggest concern is I don't feel like these judges, and Judge Doolin, I have a favorable opinion. He has a favorable opinion about Mr. Monroe. But I feel like overall, why in the heck does this I'll say this. I just want to pray that Judge Doolin has the education. I don't mean education as intelligence. I mean education as in the information to make a proper decision. That he can look at this and just say, okay, this is a witch hunt here, because they're trying to get Karen, while Aiden's dealing with his own stuff, and we just want to get everybody to just get to move on with their lives. But this system wants to continually try to find something here that, quite frankly, does not exist. And they've had the phones for 2 years. And here's the thing. If they've had the phones for 2 years, here's the thing. These people have been extremely determined to bring down Karen and bring down Aiden. They've had the phone for roughly 2 years or more. Okay. Why would they not have found something by now? Right? They would have found something a long time ago, had what they needed, and did whatever they needed to do to bring charges against one or both of them. So after 2 years, you don't have it. That just tells me at this point, there's obviously nothing. They're never going to find anything. And this is just a waste of time. And that's, thank you, Common Sense Investigator. Exactly is right. And this is a waste of time. You guys have had, and that's what the judge needs to understand. The prosecution can make any argument they want to still want those phones. However, all the defense has to say, Karen's defense team has to say here is, look, they've had 2 years. There's no, there is no more time. There is no, we need 5 more months. There is no, we need 1 more month or 1 more week. You've had 2 years. You've been determined to bring certain people down. You don't need the phones anymore. That's it. That's the end of it. Karen Read should get her devices back. No questions asked. And I pray that the judge understands that this is something that needs to be done, that just give her back her phones. For the love of God, you guys have had 2 years. End of story. That's it. And that's what the judge should be ruling and nothing else. I pray that judge makes that ruling. But I don't want to see this like, well, Your Honor, as the prosecution, we really need the phones for like another 5 or 6 years because we really want to make sure we do a thorough analysis of those phones. As you know, it can take like 17 years to fully get an out. No, I don't want to hear any more of that nonsense. I don't want to hear any more of that nonsense. You had 2 years, which is 2 years too long. And there's going to be, and that's the problem. The judge is going to start to put stricter deadlines on the prosecution. You had the phone for 2 years. The powers that be have had the phones for 2 years. End of discussion. Game over. Return the phones to Karen Read and let her walk out the door. Karen Read should not have to stand in Dedham ever again in her life for legal matters. And that's the sickening part here, is that here's Karen, who last summer walked out the doors of this place, gave a big speech thanking everybody. End of discussion. It's over. I've been acquitted. Thank you all. Moving on to civil suits. But here's Karen in 2026 having to spend her time. Thank you, Rhonda. Have a good afternoon. Has to spend her time here in Dedham once again in this courthouse. This story, this just will not end. And civilly, this needs to come to an end soon as well, which it will in time. But this aspect of it, my God, she's been acquitted. Give her back her phones. Unbelievably, a lack of letting go on this whole thing. So that's just something that's absolutely outrageous. So that's just something that, gets under my skin quite a bit and bothers me quite a bit. Now, let's talk about Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Final segment of our show tonight. Kelsey Fitzsimmons has a new judge. Kathleen McCarthy-Naiman is gone. She is out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Thankfully, and thank goodness. But we're moving on to Kelsey Fitzsimmons. A new judge has been assigned. The motion hearing for March 9th has been canceled. The trial readiness is still on for March 12th. That will be at Lawrence Superior Court. So it's still going to be in Essex County, but it's moved to a new location. So it's now in the Lawrence location, closer to Salem, New Hampshire, than it is to Salem, Massachusetts, quite honestly, if you did not know. But that's what's going on here. Now, overall, where's my article? Here we go. Overall, this judge doesn't seem too bad from the initial readings of what I'm seeing online. So, as we know, Kathleen McCarthy-Naiman was not a very trustable attorney at all. A judge at all. So there was a story that surfaced online about the judge. So basically, I wrote online 2 days ago, sharing a link to a story about this judge. KY Maverick brought it to my attention. It's on theappeal.org. It's about James Carver. And in this article, it tells you a story about a judge that I kind of like to see, which is a judge that, I don't ever expect the judge to walk in court and say, hey, I'm on this person's side or that person's side. I expect the judge to preside over a case and quite simply just say, I'm here to be impartial. And, I just want to hear this. And then I'm going to just let the jury decide, obviously, but I'm going to overlook this case the way it should be looked over and not have any level of bias or, attitude towards the defendant, which was a concern considering Judge McCarthy-Naiman threw Kelsey Simmons back in jail. And then additionally, she went as far as to, just have an attitude towards her and all that stuff and just really playing games in the courtroom. Scott says Judge McCarthy-Naiman was able to board an escape pod by merely being reassigned. She will now never have to face the music that was convenient for her corruption. Her corrupt you-know-what. And that's exactly right. She should have recused herself. They found a way to wiggle out of it, to save face, which was disgusting, quite honestly. And then they get back to Bradle like, oh, it's a moot point. It's moot. It's not moot. You guys made it moot. You guys pulled the strings you needed to pull to make this moot. Bradle, in his motion to recuse, knocked it out of the park. He made great points. They knew there was a lot of controversy about that judge talking with January like she did. And that was way out of line. That was the day before Kelsey was going to have a hearing on the 11th, which was absolutely insane. And she was out there trying to get any level of information she possibly could to have Kelsey basically in a situation. And she didn't like what January had to say, which is nuts. And it was kind of, obviously January was very forthcoming in court the next day, but this was very, very shocking news. So with a new judge, you want to have a judge that you feel like, again, can preside over the courtroom, do so in a fair manner, do so in an impartial manner, and really keep it real. So there's a story that surfaced. KY Maverick, again, who has been in the chat, may still be in the chat, sent this to me earlier this week. It was posted online. But this individual named James Carver had spent 36 years in prison after he was convicted of setting one of the deadliest fires in Massachusetts history. But after reviewing new scientific evidence, a judge set him free. That judge is the new judge in Kelsey Fitzsimmons' trial. So that's what's fantastic about this is a great first impression. Judge Jeffrey Karp is his name. All right, he's an Essex County Superior Court judge. Again, Jeffrey Karp, who eventually, in a December ruling, threw out these charges. So I'm going to get to that point right here. That's the fire that took place way back. Look how old this image is. So in March 2022, Carver's lawyers filed a motion to overturn his convictions, arguing that new scientific evidence proved his innocence and that there was no conclusive evidence that the Elliott fire was arson in the first place. It was Carver's fifth attempt at overturning his convictions, but it was his first attempt by his current legal team. It was also the first attempt to use scientific evidence to challenge the prosecution's theory about how the fire started, and it succeeded. In a December ruling, let's see if this is big enough for you guys. In a December ruling, Essex County Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Karp threw out Carver's convictions. According to the judge, a now deceased fire investigator falsely testified at trial. Think about that now. A now deceased fire investigator falsely testified at trial that there was physical evidence someone started the blaze with flammable liquid like gasoline. No such proof of that existed. So this guy, Carver, ends up spending 36 years in jail over this. Karp said the investigator relied on myths about the fire that have since been discredited. So that's the judge making that comment. Again, the judge that will be presiding over Kelsey Fitz Simmons' trial. And actually, we have KY Maverick here. January through his attorney, I believe, is how they found out. Interesting about the Kelsey thing. Yeah, because January had lit the news out. Looks like I think he spilled it right through his attorney, and that's how Bradel and the defense team found out about what Judge Kathleen McCarthy was doing. Exactly. So yeah, this guy spent 36 years of his life. Now I want you to think about this. 36 years is a long time. A long time. That's. I mean, it would be for some people that's most of their life. For some people, it's maybe half their life, depending on your age when you pass away. So Karp said the investigator relied on myths about fire that have since been discredited. The investigator, a deputy chief fire marshal for Nassau County in New York, was brought in to assist state and local officials in Beverly. The investigator was sent as part of a federal program run by what was then called the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. That's ATF. The investigator testified that the fire was deliberately set on a bundle of newspapers that a fire found in an alcove that contained the rooming house's entrance. So they went over this whole thing, had a bunch of hearings, and then ultimately Karp, as you see here, he oversaw this, listened to it, and heard the arguments, and then made a ruling. So Karp determined that Baylor's new testimony was credible and ruled that it was significant enough to warrant granting Carver a new trial. Karp also focused on testimony by a cab driver who claimed he saw Carver outside the rooming house shortly before the fire. The judge said the witness was not reliable, citing April 2024 testimony by retired Stony Brook University psychology professor Nancy Franklin, an eyewitness memory expert who reviewed the case for Carver's legal team. In her testimony, Franklin said that it was common for people to make mistakes when trying to identify strangers. So again, when you're looking at a case like Kelsey Fitz Simmons, and it's a lot of he said, she said, you want to ensure that you have a judge that can oversee a case that's going to be fair and partial and also open-minded. And I feel like Judge Karp, based on this information that I'm reading about him, is certainly displaying an open and objective mind towards information being brought to his attention by the attorneys of Carver. And I feel like this is going to be very favorable for attorney Tim Bradel, Martha Coakley, and the entire team that's representing Kelsey as they go to trial here, and even on the path to trial with an upcoming trial readiness hearing. So I think this is extremely favorable information that is really going to go a long way for Kelsey, because what Kelsey cannot afford is to have a judge similar to Kathleen McCarthy-Naiman that is obviously out to get her and has proven through Officer January, I would say January Jones, I think that's an actress, Officer January, the probation officer, that let Kelsey's defense team know, hey, look, this judge did this, this, and that. And Bradel wasted no time, obviously, in preparing that information in his motion to recuse, which was an extremely great step. That was shocking information. I read it for the first time live on my show a few weeks ago. and was absolutely stunned by what I was reading. But again, when someone like Kelsey Fitzsimmons is fighting for her freedom, you can't afford to have a judge that's going to be a hard time, similar to Judge Beverly Cannoni. I'll read the comment from Scott McGinnis in a moment. But you can't afford to have a judge that's going to really have it in for her. And a judge doing what Kathleen McCarthy-Naiman did is going above and beyond what is expected of a judge in a manner that is not being done in an ethical way. It's unethical. It's very problematic. And it's extremely troubling that that judge would ever go to that level, especially when Kelsey Fitzsimmons is fighting for her freedom here. This can't afford to be happening. So it's great that this judge is gone, even though I think she should be subjected to very strict penalties for her decisions and the things that she did. I also feel like, at least at the very least, it's a good thing this judge is no longer presiding over anything related to Kelsey Fitzsimmons, because, again, Kelsey can't afford to be dealing with a judge that's hell-bent on trying to throw her back in jail, just like she did on the 11th of September in 2025. Don't got time for that. There is no time for that. We need judges to preside over cases with decency and ethics. And I feel like, based on what I'm reading about Karp, so far so good. And I hope to see the same from him as he presides on trial. And I just hope he doesn't turn into somebody that's going to be unethical or have a level of favoritism that benefits, Essex County, because that's just not going to be something that we like to see here, folks. So Scott McGinnis says, Judge Beverly Cannoni, as featured in the Karen Reed trials, is one of the premier examples of an awful judge. Absolutely agree with you, Scott. Wrongly appointed to the bench, her bio does not warrant her wrongful judgeship. She sucks, Scott says. Bev Cannoli, drunken justice. So, yeah. Merker says, I was very worried for her if she had McCarthy-Naiman. I agree. There's something very fishy about her for sure, Becky. There's no question about it. KY Maverick says, multiple CJC complaints have been filed. Let's see what happens. So the Committee for Judicial Conduct. But yeah, that's interesting. Again, what she did and how she conducted herself was not, I'm just laughing at Scott and Common Sense Investigators' comments, was not ethical. It was not acceptable. And I can't imagine fighting for myself if I was in Kelsey's seat and having to endure this and then having a judge just go talk to a PO like that, to try to have her thrown back in jail or try to find anything she could. That needs to be conducted in the courtroom. And the very fact that that judge did not notify the defense team of this is extremely unethical, in my opinion, because, again, why in the world would she not notify the defense team? And a judge doing that outside of the court is not cool. That is not cool at all. And they knew it. They all knew it, because that's why she's been removed. She should have recused herself. She didn't. They found another wiggle room way to slither out of it, which is what they did. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of ethics there that were highly questionable, to say the least. To say the least, and put it in the lightest way possible, ladies and gentlemen. That is an absolute fact. There is no question about it. So that's what I got to say about that. But I look at this article and I like what I see from this judge. Again, analytical, impartial, open-minded. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see here. And that's what we want to see for a judge presiding over Kelsey Fitzsimmons. So I just hope and pray that this judge will do a great job, which is being, again, open, fair, honest, ethical, and impartial, overseeing everything, making sure everything is the proper way it should be in trial, not being biased, not taking sides, not being unfair to the defense team. That's what needs to be done here. That's the kind of judge we need. And I hope and pray that this judge, Judge Jeffrey Karp, is the judge for this particular trial. So those are my thoughts on that. Those are my thoughts today. We've talked about Inside Edition. We've talked about Karen Reed news. We've talked about Kelsey Fitzsimmons news. We've had the glare on this show. I'm just going to ask everybody just to request to like and subscribe to this video. I'm pushing likes and subscriptions today. Just one thing I'm doing. So if you guys are tuning in, if you guys don't mind subscribing to my channel, I do appreciate it. We'll be doing an upcoming Kelsey Fitzsimmons fundraiser next Sunday, March the 1st. However, I'm also going to be participating in a fundraiser tomorrow at 4 p.m. Common Sense Investigator Lauren will be hosting myself, Broken Baker, Nurse Kim, and Claudia King. So it'd be a nice house of 5 people there. Thank you, law girls, not attorneys. Appreciate it. Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. And, you know, we're going to be helping Kelsey out again. We're going to continue to do the best we can to raise funds for her. Make sure you subscribe to Common Sense Investigator as well. Makassi's in the house. You know, so yeah, that's what we're going to do the best we can to raise money. I mean, every time, like I said, if we raise $100, that's great. If we raise $1,000, that's great. If we raise more than 1,000, that's great. We'll continue to just do what we can to raise funds for Kelsey, help her out as much as possible. I'm very relieved of 2 things right now. Number 1, that Kelsey got out of jail. And number 2, that Judge Kathleen McCarthy-Naiman is no longer presiding over anything Kelsey Fitzsimmons related. Those were 2 very big wins so far. And again, it's the beginning of a lot more wins to come for Kelsey. She's working very hard. She's recovering. Most of us saw her video recently that was released. This was a very tough video to watch, quite frankly. I watched it twice. I watched it the first one to just get a feel for what she said. Then the second time was when it hit me a lot harder. I was very morbid for about a good half an hour to 45 minutes after I watched it the second time. I was extremely quiet for pretty much the rest of the night. I think I saw it around 9 o'clock that night, and I was just kind of really beside myself after reading it. And you know, it's just I don't cry. You know, I don't cry, but I get like kind of like somber, very quiet, very kind of like, you know, kind of like that, you know, because this is a woman that is ultimately in a very tough situation. And you have people that have taken this video online and made a farce of it. And this is people that are anti-Kelsey Fitzsimmons. You know, whomever has decided to share the video, it's their call. I'm not commenting on that. But the people out there that are criticizing Kelsey for making that video and insulting her and her opinion is, you know, and right to speak was absolutely horrible to listen to, read and listen to. You know, and I just didn't think that they should be, you know, mocking her, especially a mother of a child. People saying, oh, she's crazy. Oh, she shouldn't see her child again. Oh, this video is evidence that she can't see her kid. You know, but I just felt that this was, you know, Kelsey pouring out her heart. This is a woman that's been through a lot. Shot, had her child removed, hasn't seen her child, wanted so much as her child having a picture with a baby taken, and not being able to have that be seen, you know, not having that picture of her child with that baby. And yeah, I know. I think that's exactly what's happening as well, is that there's troll accounts out there, and there could be possibly people that have very vested interest in Kelsey's online. And we've thought that about the Karen Reed case for a long time, that especially when the first and second trials were starting, all those random accounts would just spring up that were created within the month of that time frame and start coming after every pro Karen Reed account. I mean, that could very well be happening with Kelsey, but there are people trashing Kelsey for this video. They said she should never see her child again. I mean, this was just really ridiculous things that were being said, which is horrible to see. Kelsey should absolutely be able to see her child at the very least. Even if she didn't have custody at this time, at the very least, she should be able to see her child. And that's one of the hardest things, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a situation where, you know, Kelsey deserves to have her child back. At the very least, she deserves to see her child first and foremost. And we want to see that, you know, come to fruition for her, and not have her have to feel so sad about her life, because I mean, that's killing her, you know, you know, just killing her soul. It's killing her mind. It's making her depressed. It's very difficult as a mother who loves their child that they gave birth to and you know, basically were pregnant with, you know, for 9 months, not be able to see their kid. So we're going to pray for Kelsey. We're going to pray for Karen. We're going to pray for everybody. We're going to continue to do the best we can to help out people, raise awareness, support them, fight for justice overall the best we can. That's really what it's all about in my book. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Almost a 4-hour show today. Thank you to all that tuned in. Thank you to all that like the video, subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much, guys, for that. And just continue to fight for justice. Keep pushing forward. Keep doing your very best that you can. and we'll go ahead and move forward here. Let's actually read this quick comment here. She said, "We watched it twice. The first time broke my heart. The second time it was absolutely gut wrenching. As a mom, I couldn't imagine having my son taken away and not even have access to him." Yeah, I cannot identify with that from a mother's or even father's perspective, but I can completely understand that that's, you know, it's the worst possible thing that can happen. Your kid being taken away. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today. Have a great day. I'm going to go attend to some snow. I intended to do a 2-hour show. It turned into a 4-hour show, but it's been a while since I've talked. So everybody have a great day. Take care of yourselves. And from Mark at MazzaMedia, take care of yourselves, guys. Have a good one. All right, bye-bye.